I'm like, yeah. I was like, why did I didn't see you? But it makes sense. Okay, we are live. Let me do this. Gives people some time to come in.
Let's do it. I'm Black Hannibal, running through your capital on elephants. Civilize a savage with my elegance. Militant intelligence, run through your defense. Strike like a ninja, slice, cut, and injure. Leave no prisoners, just bodies on the battlefield. I'm Spartacus with a sword and shield. Something like a marksman with cold blue steel. War paint on my face, keep my identity concealed. Advance on your camp like dozens of killer ants. Snatch your king like chess, checkmate is his death. While my team have fun with your queen. Throw your bishops off the roof, your knights flee the scene. I plant bombs in the home of your pawns. The detonation shook the foundation of your rooks. Holding shotguns with double barrels. They impact so hard when it blasts through your body travels. Street Spartacus. Black Spartacus. Black Spartacus. Black Spartacus. Black Spartacus. Black Spartacus. Burn your flag as I overthrow your government. New politics, no Democrats and Republicans. Spiritual systems built by wise men who's true in living. The foundation's no longer Christian. Teaching universally the wisdom of the nations. New currency, no more dollar bills with white faces. No more Caucasian domination. All races participating, cultivating education. The people hungry and they ain't waiting. No more debating. Let's overthrow the haven to Satan. This whole world needs some new changes. Rulers with new faces. It's time to take out the racists. Spartacus from the new ages. From the page to the stage, pull a blade on the money changers. Spartacus from the new ages. From this page to the stage, pull a blade on the money changers.
Yeah. Peace, power, and prosperity, everybody. We are in the building. Everything's litty. Shout out to everybody who is tapped in. I have my illustrious, wonderful, genius guest. You guys who are familiar know him, love him. And we're going to talk Love and Thunder today. So without further ado, I'm going to add the Professor Michael Bell.
What up, my people?
Welcome, Professor. How's it going?
Man, it's all good, man. I'm excited to be back, man. We have some of the dopest builds.
Oh,
so,
man.
You know, I'll never say no. Believe that.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming here and sharing your genius with us, man. It is an honor. It's a pleasure, as always. So I guess we should just start off and get into it. Where do you think we should start? We'll start from the beginning, Thor in the desert? Or Gore in the desert?
Okay, before we even get to Gore, let me drop a couple things, right?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I saw your background and it made me think of something that I wanted to speak on that I forgot. Now, Thor Love and Thunder. Thor as a correspondence, the god of thunder, the hammer, all this and that, very appropriate. However, in the other three, because this is the fourth installment in the Thor series, the other three were like strictly like Thor movies. However, this one, because of the title, we got to add in the love aspect. And believe it or not, the love aspect ties it directly into Shango with the Orishas. And I'm going to drop something real quick. I'm going to show you just in this first line. I saw it in the back, and actually I think I dropped it on my YouTube. Mm-hmm. But when I saw Shango in the background, I got to say this. Because Thor, although he's a warrior, he has the hammer, the correspondence is there. The love aspect is more of a Shango thing. Because Thor, while Thor was known to have his little conquests and, this and that, Thor was a married man in the mythology. You know what I'm saying?
I remember that. Yeah.
And so I want to drop this real quick. I got Judika Illis, right? Let me see if I can get it. Okay. Judika Illis, Encyclopedia of Spirits, the ultimate guide to the magic of fairies, genies, demons, ghosts, gods, and goddesses.
One of the greatest resources for deep dive.
I was just going to say, if you don't have this book, you go out and get it. It's under $20 used. If you don't have the $20 to get it used, you get the PDF. If you don't have the PDF, hit me up, michaelkbell.yahoo.com. I'm gonna send it to you because this is very necessary. You know what I'm saying? The first 100 pages alone is about building altars and how to commune with spirits. But I'm gonna read this real quick. It's within the first couple sentences that we see this. It says here, also known as Shango, Django, Obakoso, the king. The king does not hang. Origin, Yoruba, classification, Orisha. Shango is the immensely powerful lord of thunder, lightning, and fire. All three is critical to this understanding. Lover boy supreme. I'm gonna stop right there. You will never find lover boy supreme in Thor's official designation.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? So understand that as we drop, although we're talking about Thor, we're really discussing the Orisha aspect, the Shango aspect, right? Because love is critical to this, and I'm gonna show you why. So we can start off with Gore in the desert, right? You want to go first? You want me to?
No, I'll let you go first. I'll piggyback.
Okay. The first thing that caught my attention was Gore crossing that desert. You know me, I'm always taken to Kabbalah. And so in Kabbalah, that desert is actually symbolic of the abyss. He was traveling across this abyss. You feel me? And so him traveling across that abyss, he was, if anybody that saw it already, he was holding his daughter. It's revealed later the name of his daughter is actually Love. Now, the thing about the abyss in Kabbalah is that the abyss separates the upper triangle, the upper triad of the tree from the lower seven. So that's the upper seven is the macroprosopos, the lower seven is the microprosopos. The only thing separating those two is the abyss. The abyss is known as Da'ath. Da'ath means knowledge. So the only thing separating you from that highest expression of God's self or Godhead is knowledge, but not just any kind of knowledge, not even just true knowledge. The true definition would be knowledge of self. Now, the reason why him crossing that abyss was so hard and arduous is literally because he was holding his daughter. Because you have to understand that to cross the abyss, you can't have any baggage. No baggage. Now, I know somebody be thinking that wasn't baggage, that was his daughter. No, that was baggage, because literally your children, everything around you is an expression of that singularity. We all one. So essentially, his love, his daughter, was an expression of his ego, right? So he was trying to carry that across the abyss. The thing about going across the abyss is you can't bring any ego across. The understanding that we all here to do work, even though you got children, your children chose to be here. They're here to do their own work. Now, you might guide and help and correct and discipline as you should, but in the end, it is their work. So he was trying to cross this abyss, this desert plain. His daughter died. What I liked as far as deleted scenes was that, you know, he gave this little blood curdling cry when his daughter died. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But actually, that cry was cathartic. It was a release. That because he had the will to survive. Clearly, his daughter didn't. Not to say that Love died, because we know in the end what happened, right? Love came back.
Love returned, right?
Returned. And so I think that was fitting. I'm gonna stay in the theme of Kabbalah throughout the whole get down. I think that's fitting because I'm speaking of the abyss and Da'ath. If anybody's familiar with Kabbalah, the place that Da'ath holds on the Tree of Life, that's originally where Malkuth stood until it fell, until the biblical story is, you know, the fruit and the fall from paradise, right? But that's originally where Malkuth stood. So once Malkuth dropped in the Sefer Yetzirah, Malkuth is known as the fallen daughter. So essentially that abyss became an abyss because his daughter failed or was lost to him, right? So the whole goal of everything we're doing is to raise up that aspect, that daughter aspect, and bring her back. So it was fitting that she passed, and it was equally fitting that she was brought back. But if you notice, while he was crossing that desert, it was more a trial and a testament. It was more of his personal trial, you know? And so unless you want to drop, I'm going to keep moving forward.
Keep going.
Okay, so he crossed his abyss. He lost his daughter. Again, I just want to say that to anybody watching, don't think I'm being callous. You have to realize that these movies do not have separate characters. They're all, his daughter is an aspect of him that actually he had to lose to cross that abyss to gain himself. So he crossed that desert and he came to an oasis, right? And once he got to the oasis, first thing he did, he baptized himself. He dove in them waters. You know what I'm saying? And know it too, I say this to you, I couldn't help but think to myself when he was crossing that desert, I thought about when those creations of Yaqub got marched across the desert, right? You know
Yeah.
I always, I couldn't help but to think about that, And so it was fitting on. It was a double entendre. It was fitting on a different level. Hey, thanks for the Tree of Life. So I just want to say real quick, I'm gonna back up that we see the upper three, 1, 2, 3. We had an upper three. That space between 3 and 4, that's what's known as the abyss. And I'm glad we got the paths up there because that's something I definitely want to touch on. So I feel as though Gore actually represented the super consciousness. I say super consciousness because the transition he made from regular self-consciousness to super consciousness was when he met his deities. He met his God, right? And upon meeting this God, it wasn't nothing like he had thought it would be, right? It was
real quick, you sparked something in me, not to interrupt, but to interject. He had his daughter, and his daughter was like you said, his daughter's name was Love, but it was also his love for quote unquote God or the mystery God, right? That kept him going, So we had this love, but this love wasn't serving him. It wasn't getting him what he needed. He just had a belief that someone else was going to save him. So like you said, when he went through the abyss or when he went through the desert, that was him kind of getting to, or at his last, so to speak, where he couldn't, there was no more love in him for that. He was searching for something, and then he found the oasis. Go ahead. So I just
that's fact. I'm glad you said that because it ties in perfectly. He actually had to lose that love that he held, because actually he held that external, I'm gonna say the word, he held that external deity above and beyond himself and his daughter. You know what I'm saying? So he actually had to lose that love. I'm glad you said that. But once he hit that oasis, mind you, he was crossing the abyss. So actually, he never did reach the other side of that abyss. You see the other side of the abyss, we had those other three Sephira, which is Kether, Hokmah, and Binah. So actually, what that abyss represents, Da'af, that was his knowledge of self. So when he hit that abyss, when he finally made it to the sweet spot, which was the oasis, he found himself in the presence of his God. But by this time, he had lost his love. You feel me? I'm glad you said that because that ties it all in. So anybody that's a serious movie watcher, we should all remember Clash of the Titans. And they say, don't worship them gods. You worship them gods, that's how they feed off of you. And the god's name was Rapu. And he actually displayed that perfectly for him.
Yes, he did.
He had nothing but utter contempt for him. You know what I'm saying? And so it was perfect. Now I want to say too, soon as he came to the oasis, remember he cut his hand on the necro sword, right? The necro sword, I'm gonna go back to Kabbalah again. There in William G. Gray's Ladder of Lights, he says that the only way you can cross the abyss, he refers it to walking on a sword's edge.
And
right?
This is the abyss, y'all, that I'm going through. When you're going through that, just to show you. Y'all can see that. Y'all can see the mouse?
No, right now it's that same Tree of Life image up.
Okay. Well, it's that middle silver pillar, y'all.
Yes. So not even just the middle silver. Take that whole rectangle in the center.
Mm-hmm.
That entire rectangle is the abyss. Abyss just means a gap. Abyss is synonymous with chaos, but it actually just means a gap. And while you may know how far across that gap is, you don't know how deep it goes, right? And that's synonymous too in the transformation he underwent, just crossing that abyss. But now in the center of that silver pillar, that there's a sephira that is not a sephira, known as da'ath. That means knowledge itself.
Y'all can see that, right? You can see that, right?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep. Now that's the oasis he went to. And in that oasis, he touched that sword. That sword is what he had to cross to get there. And that left him in hollow Vegeta, what up with it? So that left him in a place where he was stripped of all illusions. And to meet his God, first thing he did was, man, I renounce you, because he realized that God wasn't external. And that's something that watching it was impressed on me, is that we tend to kind of externalize these deities and place them on a pedestal above us, and we don't realize that if anything is on a pedestal above you, it's looking down on you.
And the fact that he expected a reward, he expected, because all he did was believe that there was a reward. But it's interesting because the planet was devolved. Like they lost people. They didn't have resources to the point where he died. But he still was praying to a God to save him. He still, when he had the deity, which was a solar deity, which was interesting because Jesus is a solar deity.
You're right.
Speaking of Sunday. So it's like he still was depending on something else to save him. Even when he got to the oasis, right? And he saw the necro sword, which, interesting enough, was a black, melanated God deity. When he saw that, he was like, he still didn't even take up the sword. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even take up the sword initially to defend himself, until he realized that the God that he was worshiping was really ready to choke the life out of him, because that's what he did. And he picked him up and he was going to kill him. You know what I'm saying? Before he picked up the necro sword. So a lot of times when you believe, like, people go to their altars and they're like, oh, I'm going to put this down, or I'm going to do this spell, or I'm going to do that. And then all of a sudden I'm going to pour libations, and then magically, things are going to happen. And yes, that is one of the things when you're casting a spell, but you also want to put your own efforts out there. You want to take your own steps to do something. Don't just wait for a miracle to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because the metaphor is, it could choke you out, by you trying to, and you could deplete all your resources. And again,
facts.
Without the ability to transfer, if you're not looking to transfer these things on your own. Because when you get out there and start moving, that's when you find the breadcrumbs or that leads you to that oasis. But it's ultimately always going to bring you back to your own necro, or your own negro, or your own inner melanated, you melanated sword that is in you, that you're going to use to kill so-called butcher gods, or butcher gods that are, like, just for lack of, you could say sins, butcher those guys that are in you with your own inner necro sword.
Now, I'll say this. I'm glad you said that too. You have to understand that, number one, a sword is synonymous with the spine. The spinal column is what Kundalini fire rises up. That's the channel, the Shushumna. So what you have to understand too is that sword, that melanated sword, because it was indeed black. What you have to realize is that he had to develop a spine. He had to stand upright on his own 2 feet. And so, even like you said, he came across that sword when he seen his God, man, all them old habits, kick right in. He instantly dropped down, and man, like he thinking, now mind you, everybody has an idea of an all-powerful deity that's all-knowing. Yet what was the first thing he did? He tried to fill his God in on what's happening. Right. Man, we dying, and is there no water, and the people are and he was like, I know.
Right. He's like, I know. He said, we replace y'all every day. He was like, we replace multiple followers. He said, what happens? He said, y'all gonna still follow me, so we don't care we're indifferent to the ways of the world. We're indifferent to what's going on,
and just to tie it into what you said just a few minutes ago, when you brought up altars and libations, these things are critical for adjusting altars, libations, ancestor veneration. All that is appropriate, really, to be truthful, as a beginning. You know what I'm saying? Once you get in alignment with that, you're not bound to that, because in the end, you are not the sacrifice, you are the altar. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to place yourself on somebody else's altar. You want to be, you are the altar. Sacrifices are made to you. So I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people think that you have to constantly remember to set aside some of your food. Man, my ancestors eat when I eat.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
They live within you. Yeah, they're just part of your junk DNA.
Exactly. So it's okay. I'm not knocking it. It's okay if that's part of your routine, because I did it too. But now I'm of the understanding that we eat together. Like, I'll be honest, whenever I drink, if I remember out the gate, I pour them something. But for real, we eating and drinking together. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take this shot for you. This one for the ancestor, this one for me. And that's how I do it. But that's my way of doing it. Like, I'll say this too real quick. A lot of us came up in the school of Bobby Hemmett, where we spit them libations out to the four corners, right? We do our ashes to the four corners, to the four cardinal points. Well, I always added a fifth one. And that's where I spit out libation directly above my head and let it rain down on me. You know what I'm saying? Because it's my turn here in the flesh. So I'm just dropping that. Just so, you know, for that aspect. But I felt as though what you said was right when you mentioned the altars and things like that. But however, let's just to keep it kind of moving, the sword was whispering to him, right? Mm-hmm. That was actually a function of intuition, that gut feeling. You know how we get that gut feeling? The gut feeling is not just a feeling. It's actually, we hear a little voice in the back of our head like, man, I should have, you should turn left, or you shouldn't go to work today. That's when you ignore your gut feeling. Well,
that's actually, your soul. That's your soul right there.
That's your soul.
That's your soul.
So he
the domain, so that's your heart's desire. But your heart is trying to tell you something that your conscious mind is not able to perceive. So basically, it's your soul screaming out, because we all have these things where we are in life, and like you said, you hear a voice telling you go left, or you hear a voice telling you go right, or you hear a voice telling you no, don't do this or don't do that. But at the same time, it takes you, like you said, it takes you going. Because remember, like you said, he had to go through the oasis, and when he went through the oasis, I always say water is just a conduit, for the soul and the spirit. So he had to go through that, that's that awakening and the tragedy, when these superheroes or these supervillains, they always go through some sort of tragedy first before they get their power. Their things always break down, and it's literally like the coal being crushed into a diamond, So a lot of people are going through things currently. A lot of people are losing their jobs, losing their cars, losing their homes. You don't see it on social media, but it's happening. So the main thing to do is to go within yourself and study and learn and connect to your ancestors, but don't depend on your ancestors. But the connection to your ancestors will allow you to start hearing that voice crystal clear. And really, if you deep dive and you tap into your clairaudience, once you do this work long enough, you'll gain what they call clairaudience. That voice it'll be so on point, it'll be crystal clear. So you're, like you said, your spine, that kundalini rising up the Sushumna, now you're forming your own necro sword. So when you go in the world, you get these miracles. You're on an interview if you need a job. If you're starting your business, you know how to talk to your business partners or your clients, or you need to talk to the people at work, whatever type of things that you're doing. Now that voice is guiding you, and now you are merged with the ancestral realm or merged with Da'at.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, that's a lot of us that know, once you start doing this work and you become true to yourself, you will find your voice. And finding your voice is synonymous with gaining a backbone, because a lot of times at work or different situations, you kind of let stuff slide, and okay, I know, you right, and you kind of see this in all the supervillain arcs. You even saw it in Captain America, where he was kind of docile and this and that, even though he kind of stood up for himself. You right, more so in villain arcs. But once you find your voice, once you get that spine and stand up right, all of a sudden that little, a good one while we talking Marvel and villains. Remember in the Spider-Man movie where Jamie Foxx was Electro?
Yeah.
Remember he was kind of bent over, kind of,
shy and meek. Yeah.
Once then
even
he got
Spider-Man when he got with Venom in Spider-Man 2 or 3, I believe, when he was working.
Same
with Venom.
thing. So that's synonymous too with finding your voice. Is actually you listening to your intuition, listening to your gut. You know what I'm saying? And so I just felt like all of that was appropriate, right up until he cut that sun god's head off. You know what I'm saying? Because truthfully, Rapu, that deity he was worshiping, he wasn't worthy of that slot. Because to be honest, if we talking Kabbalah, right? Any god that represents the sun, he got to be willing to sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? And clearly Rapu wasn't, but guess what? He ended up a sacrifice on Gore's altar when he took his head off. You know what I'm saying? So that's applicable too. A lot of times we got to be mindful of who we place on our altars, right? You know what I'm saying? Because maybe that concept of deity, maybe that archetype is not fit for you. You know, that for me, that reminds me of like a lot of us when we first start doing this work. You'd be like, I'm working with Shiva, or I'm gonna work with Baphomet, I'm gonna work with Cthulhu, and you work and you try and you never get no results. That's because that ain't where it's at for you right now. Right. Maybe later. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to
plant your seed on fertile soil. You know,
on fertile soil. And I'm gonna say this
type of work, because there's times, there's seasons, there's planetary hours. There's a lot that comes along with the occult work in order to make your magic coalesce. You know, just doing now. If you things will manifest regardless if you put enough energy, power, and emotion into it. All right, and speak it into existence enough. However, how fast do you want it to manifest? Where do you want to, where do you want to go with it? Like you were saying, you have to plant this seed on fertile soil. You can't just think, oh, I'm going to work with the Baphomet. You know what I'm saying? And you're not ready to work with that energy, and you are not. Baphomet is all about balance. You know you're not balanced. You know you're smoking 20 blunts a day. You know what I'm saying? You know you're drinking heavy. You know there's certain. You know you're sexing out of control, and you're doing all type of things to people. That may be quote unquote nefarious. You're not balanced, so you're trying to get the energy of balance to manifest something maybe material in your life, but you're not there. So that energy can't work with you because you're not a mirror. Your mirror neuron, speaking of science, is not mirroring the deity or the energy vortex that you're actually asking for. So at the same time, you're not matching what you're putting out. So you have to really be careful when you're working with these deities to make sure that it is in season and you are matching that energy when you are moving forward in this work.
And just to piggyback on what you said, the season is not what your favorite YouTuber is talking about.
No.
it's your season. You know what I'm saying? And I've said it in other interviews that I've listened to people like Panic, Bobby Hemmett. You can go down and list, and they've talked about working with certain deities. And I'm not gonna tell you no lies. I jumped and tried to work with them myself. It wasn't my season; it was their season. Exactly. So eventually, I'm gonna tie this into tarot, and I believe that. Hold on one second. Okay, when we get to the topic of Thor and the goats and his chariot, I want to bring something up to tie it in. I'm gonna speak on it now. Chariot.
We about to hit the goats next scene, so we might as well go to that.
So I'm just gonna say this. The goats, Thor's chariot. That even though in the comics and mythology, Thor had a chariot. Here, he had more of a barge, which I thought was even more symbolic because we think of the solar barge. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like it was just as appropriate, but it still applies to the chariot card in tarot. And one of the names for the chariot card is discerning intelligence. Now, they come to that conclusion because of the Hebrew word cheth and it's related to the sense of smell, right? And so your sense of smell is very discerning, because how many of us have been in a situation where you say, you don't smell that? Man, it stink. You don't smell it. So that's the sense of smell is very discerning, and it's very unique to each individual, because some people have a better sense of smell. And the boat. I feel you, Hollow. Yep, the boat. So some people have a better sense of smell than others. So it's about having a discerning intelligence. And so it's all about your ability to discern what you smell, because sometimes you can smell something nobody else smelled it. It could be horrible. It could be enough to turn everything off about you. But let's get into it. Actually, if I'm correct, the next scene after him killing the deity, after him killing Rapu, was going to Thor's story. So what I want to do is, before we get to the chariot, the boat, or the barge, I want to speak on the Tarot connection. The Tarot connection. Now you have to understand too, whenever you talk Tarot, you're talking astrology, Kabbalah, and Tarot. These are three aspects of the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give a shout out to Travis Majors, because he's really helped me to nail some of these concepts down. And so we see Thor and what he's been up to since the last time we seen him, right? And if you trip, he's doing a lot of reflection. The Takiti Waiti, the guy, the producer, he says that we're seeing insecure Thor. He calls him the insecure Thor. And you see that from everything he's kind of going through. They're showing everything he's been up to. We actually have, what's his boy name? Core, The Rock. He's explaining to us, to the people, what Thor's been up to. Thor's been, rolling with the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's been going through his ups and downs. He's actually been very emotional. Now, the emotion aspect, that's going to be, even though Thor is an aspect of Jupiter. Thursday, that all applies to Jupiter. However, Thor is the son of Jupiter, actually, right? Son of Jupiter would be Mars. And so eventually we're going to get to the Mars aspect, because at one point in the movie, they called Thor the god of destruction. You know what I'm saying? So to let you know that this is all astrological, it's all Kabbalistic, and it all applies to the Tarot. You know what I'm saying? And so one of the things I noticed was that Thor was real emotional. That was it was like indicative of the water element. Well, the Chariot card, that's my book. That's the go-to book right there. Qabalistic Tarot by Robert Wang. If you don't have this book, easy to find in PDF, but I would always suggest, if you can't afford it, you get the physical copy, because books are objects of power. Books have a tendency of drawing things towards them. Just like you go in the library, and even though so you're supposed to be quiet, the quiet is like enforced without being said. So that's a great book to have, whether you're knee deep in Kabbalah or Tarot, or if you have an understanding of either or. Get this book. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna show you what I got right here next to me. I have my own copy that I go through religiously on the regular. But we see everything Thor's going through. The Chariot is synonymous with the crab. Crab is Cancer. Cancer is the moon. That's a water sign. That's why Thor was so weepy and emotional. Matter of fact, he tried to find himself in meditation and all the other things.
And it's dropped in Cancer season.
And it dropped in Cancer
season.
Now, let me say this. Let me say this before we move on. Mm-hmm. The way I made the Tarot connection was when it dropped. It dropped just before Cancer is Gemini, right? Gemini is the lovers. Cancer is the Chariot. That's all I saw watching this, even though other cards do apply, even though the Strength card applies, even the Hermit card, because Thor's Stormbreaker has a wooden hilt. It's a lot longer than Mjolnir. That's a staff.
Yeah.
So even the Hermit card. But if you trip, the cards I just named, 7, 8, 9. We have the Lovers, we have the Chariot, and then we have the Hermit. So it was back to back to back. So when they make these, I'm quick to not give these producers all that kind of credit and say they so deep with the occult, but they are tuned in to, for lack of a better word, the muses, that divine spark of inspiration. So I don't know if Takiti Waiti, I don't know if he's deliberately walking up the tarot, because they do drop these movies at the very perfect time. They even cast the actors according to the astrological signs. I wouldn't have bet you, if we look it up, Thor is going to either be a Gemini, a Cancer, or a Leo. Yep. Either or. If not, maybe even the Aries, right? So just to show you that they do. That's why it's called casting. When they cast these movies, it's called casting, and we know that relates to casting spells. But just to see the progressions that Thor made, he was embodying these different aspects of tarot. You know what I'm saying? He was emotional, and now the reason why, because it all begins with the lovers. The lovers begins in Gemini. That's in what? In May. So. Yes. The Lover's card in tarot is a man, a woman, and there's a archangel in the center. Well, he was imbalanced. He didn't have his feminine aspect. His feminine aspect was Jane Foster. That's why she was like a mirror image of him. That's why she eventually became worthy of Mjolnir and all of that. And I actually want to say,
and furthermore, that's why he couldn't get to the Bifrost with Stormbreaker. Only.
Exactly.
He had to go on the boat, the sky boat, to get him to the Shadow Realm, because it was like Mjolnir. They was like Stormbreaker's not acting up, which to me at that time it reminded me of Sirius, the star Sirius that Stormbreaker represented, because that's Cancer season. That's when July 4th and all that is really popping off. So that's when Sirius is kind of at its precipice. So it was like that was the guiding star, so to speak, when you break through the gates of Orion. Because you got to go through Orion's belt to get to the Sirius star system. So to me, that was like a way of getting into, quote unquote, the underworld, which is really the subconscious, or what we call dark energy, right? Mirrored back within us, our dark black body radiation, which is the soul, or the source of the soul.
Straight up. And if you trip, Gore beat Thor to that place.
Yeah.
Gore went through all that. Thor was actually catching up, because again, I'm saying all these characters represent one being, represents you. So Thor actually was catching up, because the point of the Lover's card are those three figures. The male, which represents Adam, the namer, the tiller of the earth, right? Adam named everything. He planted all the seeds. And then you have Eve, which Eve gets a bad rap in the common understanding, but Eve merely represents the subconscious mind. Eve is that lunar process, right? So Adam or Thor is the conscious aspect. Eve is the subconscious. Gore will represent that superconscious, because Gore was already there. And I'm gonna jump back and forth, but I'm gonna go all the way to the end, because
in the end, in the garden is Kundalini rising up the spine.
It's rising up the spine, that serpent. And if you think about it, think about it. When Thor told the Guardians he was finna dip, he told Star-Lord, remember they did that weird ass handshake? What did he do after he did the serpent? He did the serpent. So we see that it was all there, and the serpent is actually on the lover's card as well. So it was all there. It was a progression from the Lover's card to the Chariot, and then you can go beyond to the Hermit. But
I thought it was interesting to also that the Guardians of the Galaxy plus Korg, right, plus Thor, if we take out Gamora and put in I forgot her name, but Thanos' daughter, her sister, it would come out to 7 people to start off. So the 7 original planets, the 7 chakras. Also, they had those 3 cups, which was the shrine for the Indigo gods that they had there. So the shrine that Thor destroyed in there, to me, that was like a representation of also the 3 brains, the mind, the heart, and the gut brain, right?
Gut. You damn right.
All leading to you getting into that indigo or that crown chakra state, which would be the color of your shirt that you got on, the purple. So that crown chakra state, which would be those 3 cups. When you are in spirit, you get a Thor to save you, because the enemies, if you notice, were owls, right?
Yeah.
So it reminded me of like the owls representing like secret societies, representing hidden knowledge or hidden truth that they're hiding from the masses. But if you are in tune, you will have a door, or you will have people in your life that will help and assist you, that will help you raise your shrine or raise your vibration to the point where you are able to get this knowledge and master this stuff for yourself. Like I was telling somebody, there's not really secrets like that anymore. Of course, there's secret societies and they have different things that they do, but you could tap into that as well. The time is now. So don't ever negate or think that a secret society or Illuminati or these people have more knowledge than you, or are able to access more than you can. You could just simply download this knowledge strictly by being in meditation and being in a meditative practice. These things will come to you, but you have to stir again those three cups, that mind, the soul, or the brain, the heart, and the gut. Once you stir those three things, do your raising of Kundalini, like you said, going through the Sushumna and raising the Kundalini, going up that bar. Now you're able to see things that you would not normally see. You have, as our Lionel would say, sight beyond sight.
And I'll say this too, though. You made a good point. Actually, I don't remember seeing Gamora at all.
No, she's supposedly dead, but they said that, they're going to bring her back later episodes. But she died in Endgame.
I thought the other one came back. I thought the Gamora from the past came back. Remember when Thanos came back? When they fought in Endgame, the other Gamora
came back. Yeah, she did.
But still, I would just bring that up to say the 7 is still there. We have Gamora's sister. I don't know why I can't remember her name. Then the other 4, that makes 5, and then you have Thor and Korg. That gives you 7. And if you think about it, that center structure in that temple was purple. The other one was orange. One was purple, orange, and I forget the third one.
I think the other one was purple, orange, and green, actually. So yeah, that's why I said, I was like, that's the 3 brains. I was like, that's the three brains and those 3 major chakras.
Exactly, right there, straight up. You know what? Real quick, I want to read a few sections out of. I got a good book. A lot of people not up on this dude. Let me see if I can get it in there. Can you see it? It's too bright on my side. This is Dr. Paul Foster Case, The Tarot, A Key to the Wisdom of Ages, right? Let me see if I can get it up here. I got a lot of lights on in my room. Oh, there we go. So, Paul Foster Case, The Tarot, A Key to the Wisdom of Ages. Now, I like his breakdown on tarot better as opposed to most authors. Robert Wangs is another one of my favorites. I definitely other authors like Arthur Edward Waite, they're gonna make you work too hard. Now I'm definitely not one against working, but you shouldn't have to work that damn hard. And what you just said about the secrets and secret societies, Arthur Edward Waite, he was bound by obligation not to say certain things. Matter of fact, he intentionally put blinds and dead ends in what he broke down about the tarot. Now, Paul Foster Case, he started an organization called BOTA, B-O-T-A, Builders of the Aditium. And what I like about them is, especially when it comes to tarot and Kabbalah, he's going to give you all the tools. The rest is going to be up to you. And so what he says about the Lover's card, I just highlighted a few passages, so just bear with me. The Lovers, it's the 6th key. 6 means sex. Take it back to Greek, even in Egyptian. In the Kemetic language, the word 6 was sexen, S-E-X-E-N. In Greek, it was sex. So this is about not physical copulation, but regeneration, rebirth, of refining thought processes and higher consciousness. So I'm going to read this here real quick. The Hebrew letter associated with the Lover's card is Zain. It means sword or weapon. Well, we started this whole Thor off with the Necro sword, which is the sword, right? Now, the Lover's card is attributed to Gemini, the twins. The twins in Love and Thunder is Jane Foster and Thor, right? We know that they're twins because of the swords, their outfits, and all of that. It says the zodiac that is the zodiacal sign attributed to Zane. The name of the sign suggests duality, division, and other ideas related to the meaning of the letter. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the magician. A lot of magic in Thor, of course, right? We're dealing with gods. Sometimes personified in Egyptian mythology as a jackal-headed Anubis, representing discernment. Again, we talked about smell, the sense of discernment, and being able to tell certain things apart and to refine these thoughts and ideas. It says here in another passage, the title of the lovers, it intimates the union of opposites, but complementary modes of existence. It also closely relates to the disposing intelligence, disposition, affections, temperament, idiosyncrasies, and propensities. Now, I thought that was important because that was actually what kind of caused Jane Foster and Thor to break up. It was these idiosyncrasies, right? They hadn't, even though they were polar opposites, they were like two sides of the same coin. They hadn't found that middle ground, which is what led to them eventually breaking up. And so let me read a couple more paragraphs out of this. Let me just make sure I don't got too much. I talked about that. Says here, okay, I've mentioned before that Thor represents self-consciousness. Now, self-consciousness is to be self-aware on a very mundane level. Everybody is self-aware. You know when you're hungry, you know when you got to scratch your ass, all this and that. But it actually goes higher than that, because the self-consciousness we're really talking about is the key that leads to a higher knowledge of self. We're talking about Da'at, we're talking about Gnosis, we're talking about knowledge of self. So the self-consciousness we're talking about is the self-consciousness that's going to be balanced with subconsciousness. We said earlier, the female represents the moon, which is subconscious. The moon would be Yesod. The male would be Tiferet. Yesod being 9, Tiferet being 6. And right above Tiferet is the abyss, and above the abyss is the upper triad. So it's about finding balance on that middle pillar, because there are old aspects of the lover card that show the man in between two women, right? And so the understanding is like, matter of fact, I wish I had the book here. The 666 that's mentioned in the Bible, it is actually a feminine term. Matter of fact, I do have the book here. I want to read this about the man with the two women. The 666, right? A lot of people, myself included, quick to say 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, right?
Carbon. Yeah.
Carbon. But it's also in relation to the number 6 and sex, like I just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to read this real quick. This is now another book I got. I would recommend it to anybody that's seriously about it. This is Barbara G. Walker's The Secrets of Tarot and the Origin of History. The Secrets of Tarot, Its Origins and Histories. Anything by Barbara G. Walker is worthy of having. I'm going to say this again. You see all these books behind me. I don't buy these books new. I get them used. What's the point? A book is a book. Matter of fact, you get a used book, somebody just like you had it, and the most likely they put energy into it. Don't worry about whatever they were on.
Definitely sage it up, because I'm like you. I buy used books all day. Sage it up. You know what I'm saying? Clean the cover, whatever, with alcohol. Clean the back, whatever. And
you can do your own ritual. You can run sage over the pages. I've done it all. But I'm just saying, do not deny yourself having these physical copies. PDFs are cool.
Physical copies are more important, though. Yeah.
Exactly. So
and they're going up in value, too. In 10 years, some of these books are going to be worth thousands of dollars.
Man, I'm going to tell you the
Mystical Kabbalah. When I got this initially, I got this for like $18 or $20. Now it's like $60 on it.
Yep. I say this, too. I'm building my library up for my kids, man. My kids see me constantly reading. Sometimes they'll indulge and let me read them a passage or two. But for the most part, when I'm gone and they're gonna be faced with the choice to either sell these books, throw them away, or keep them, I want at some point to say, let me look inside these books. And that's why I write very detailed notes in the margins, because I want them to say, this is what my dad, you know what I'm saying? So it's an investment all the way around for me. And even if they gave them all to the Goodwill and another person like me bought it used, you enjoy those notes and those highlights.
Somebody gonna get that work.
Gonna get that work. So I'm gonna read this real quick. It says, and this is Judika Illis's book. She says King Solomon united himself to Ishtar Astarte, which we know to be Queen Sheba, through her priestesses, and who was called the Shulamite in the wedding songs still preserved in the Bible. Through powers thus acquired, Solomon received 666 talents of gold in a year. And this, you can find this in the Bible, 1 Kings 10:14. This was not a real number, but a magic number, listed elsewhere in the Bible as the famous number of the beast, Revelations 13:18. The 666 beast was originally the beast with two backs. Now think of a beast with two backs. Wouldn't get nowhere, right? It's facing each other. But those are two lovers in embrace, in coitus, united in thought, right? And so it says, the 666 beast was originally the beast with two backs, or primal androgyne, said to resemble a man and a woman in sexual union, like the hexagram it described. 666 was a sexual charm sacred to the triple Aphrodite, Astarte. Pythagorean mystics called her number 6 the perfect number, or the mother. In Latin, 6 was sex. In Egyptian, sexin, meaning to embrace, to copulate. A derivative Egyptian word, seshemu, which is close to shishumna, sexual intercourse, had its hieroglyph of phallus inserted into an arched yoni gate. The word was repeated in Sufi love rituals and became the magic charm that opened the gate of secret uterine cavern in Arabic fairy tales, that is, open sesame. Now we all think about open sesame, and we realize that the hero of that story, that magic password opened up a cave, and he found all these treasures that were hidden in darkness. Sesame relates back to the number 6 and the word sex. So I just said all that to say that Thor was in that state he was in because he wasn't in alignment with that other aspect of himself. He was missing, he was, and clearly it shows soon as he seen Jane as the mighty Thor. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't want to keep holding. Jump in whenever you want to, or I just keep rolling, man. And so
keep rolling.
Okay, cool.
Well, let me jump in real quick, because that's interesting that you talk about 6 and 6 being sex, being that we're in the 6th year. And it's really, if you notice, you see the rise of the feminine, right? Mm-hmm. In all the mythos, Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, Woman King, right? Little Mermaid, all these female, even in the they call it the MCU right now. The haters, they call it the MCU.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they call it the MCU because you got Thor with Jane, you had Doctor Strange with Wanda. All these myths are having female entities as the lead. Even Prey, the new Predator movie, Prey, that was on Hulu, is a female that was the actual lead and actually the killer. So we're in a year where that everything is leveling up. Of course, it's to some extremes because of the world we live in, but because it was so tilted to, I hate the term patriarchy, but masculine energy. Yeah. And now we have to resurrect that and go back through feminine energy, and through that gate of feminine energy is where we'll start to heal. And that's why we're having a spiritual renaissance. A lot of people don't realize, though, that we're under a spiritual renaissance. We're living in this will be recorded as the spiritual renaissance from 2004, when the internet started blowing up, till now. Because prior to that, as you know, Michael Bell, with men of a certain age, this was not a thing. Like, you couldn't go on YouTube. This was not popular like it is now, where you go on YouTube. Like, I was on YouTube, I signed up on my other account, and they offered me a tarot reading. I'm like, I don't want no tarot reading from YouTube, But it's become pop culture, where you're seeing this in like the Daily News, and you're seeing this the New York Post. They're talking about Mercury retrograde. I'm like, the New York Post, your racist ass newspaper talking about Mercury retrograde. Come on. It's pop culture now, because that feminine energy or that soul energy is coming into play, and that water energy is coming into play. So which is that your side energy, or that number 9, which is the foundation. But this the foundation to what? Spirit. And spirit being revealed. The reflection of moonlight is a reflection of the sun. Moonlight is a reflection of the sun. So it's really the revealing of spirit to the world or to the masses. And the more people that are taking up, quote unquote, their altars, and really paying, like I tell people, like the first step is really to pay homage to your ancestors, before you go to Horus or Baphomet or Lilith or this and that. Pay homage to your ancestors, because your ancestors got your back and they're waiting for you to really just open the door to come in. When you're living a life where you're blinded, or you got horse blinders on, as we all did at one point in time, running through the matrix, you don't really know where you're going. You're kind of like a rudderless ship. You might be going for money and things like that. But as I always tell y'all, you know what I'm saying, once you hit a certain amount and you get a certain amount of money, you get a certain amount of things, then it's like, then what? You know what I'm saying? And everybody, and most people have to go through different lives to experience that, to where you're getting a certain amount of money and then you realize all these material things are not going to make you happy. This is why you see a lot of people, wealthy people, they get into spirituality as they get later into life. They start getting into meditation. They start getting into esoteric studies, like a Jim Carrey, like a Russell Brand. These people that are into these type of things, and they already have the money because they realize that that is not enough to, quote unquote, save your soul. You want to be attached to something that is going to help you overcome pain, suffering, distrust, defeat, and anger. I was on Facebook yesterday. I made a comment about The Woman King, right? And I was like, I saw The Woman King last night, and it was a good movie, and it challenged my perception of what I thought it would be, right? And of course, there's Hollywood propaganda. We'll get into that. Probably me and you do a quick decode on it when you watch it. But there's some propaganda, of course. But overall, the positive outweighs the negative. And it was just all these people like just coming at me. And I'm just hitting them with positivity, like, boom, okay, all right, all right, okay, we could agree to disagree. And, they weren't taking it. Like, they weren't taking the positivity. It was weird, But these are people that are not vibrating at a certain level. It doesn't make me better than them or make them less than. It's just I've done the work. So even when the challenges come, right? Because I could have flipped out and cursed everybody out just like it went back and forth. When the challenges come, it's like, are you going to be a god, or are you going to lower yourself to be just like everyone else and lower your vibration? God always has to shine. He always has to shine his light, and that's your moonlight. So I just want to touch to that.
No,
and it's interesting. Real. The 6 and the 9, are the same number, just in reverse.
Yes,
so the sun and the moon.
Hey, I say this also. And also the 6 and 9 is actually what we know as the yin yang symbol. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Just opposites, and within the black is a dot of white. Within the white is a dot of black. I want to say this to you. What you said, it kind of struck real about this era we're in, where you see the for some people it's jarring, it's radical, this raising of the divine feminine, right? I'm gonna say this though, while we on the topic. See, Bobby Hemmett was about 30-40 years too early. Now everybody who listened to all that Bobby Hemmett, and now you've moved on or whatever, now's the time to double back and listen to Bobby, what he was saying about the divine feminine. Because what we're seeing now, this has been in the works for the last 6 years. If you think about it, Lovecraft Country, man, that was about the raising up of the divine feminine. And it goes back even further. Matter of fact, we wouldn't have Woman King if not for Lovecraft Country. You know what I'm saying?
Real quick, read that thought, because I just want to jump in. And you notice in Lovecraft Country, the black man was sacrificed in the last episode. And if you see all these rappers getting killed, it's a sign for the next generation that there is another way for you to, quote unquote, get rich. There's another way for you to become successful. And this way is not it. Just being a rapper, just getting all this money. Because, man, we have to realign with that part of ourselves. We got the spirit, we're moving, we're taking action, because spirit, the 4 elements, right? You're dealing with air and fire, right? That's masculine energy. When you're dealing with the feminine, you're dealing with water and earth, right? So now we're in a water earth cycle, so basically the men are getting sacrificed that are not rising to the level to where they're integrating both energies, where they're harnessing the four elements, which would make a cohesive square or a Metatron cube, getting really deep with it, right? Where you're having that Merkaba, so to speak, where you're walking around, but you have to tap into that feminine energy, which is what spirituality is all about, because that's really connecting. It's really more or less spirituality than a soul reality, right? Connecting with your soul, why you were born, right? You were born through the mother. You're born through the feminine energy. Mm-hmm. So it's like, why are you here? You know, what is your soul's purpose? Is it just to get a whole bunch of chains and rap and travel and do all those type of things? Or is there something higher? You know, is there something more? Do we as men have to connect more to nature and connect more to our emotions and our feelings, right? And things like that, instead of just being hard and tough and rugged, aka 90s hip hop, right? As a reflection of that. And if you notice the hip hop now, right? Because as above, so below, you'll see that it's more melodic, it's more catering to women, right? It's much more softer, where men are talking about their feelings. So until we all, or most of us, come into that realization of merging the masculine, that fire and that air energy with the water and the earth energy, once we come to that coalescing, then, you know, it's the 6 to 9 again coming into existence. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's that love, and that's what Lovecraft Country was about, to make that part.
I want to say this too, because even as spiritual people, I think we forget that the divine feminine, divine masculine, that does not refer to gender.
Right.
We just talked about the yin yang symbol, the black being representative of the negative or the receptive, with the white dot, the white representing consciousness, activity. Okay, I'll even go further. Black, subconscious, receptivity, and we'll just throw in vagina. Let's throw in the feminine aspect. And then you got the masculine, which is like the white part, active, what's another word? Giving, I guess you could say. And then you go to that little black dot in the center of that. Now, I just said it's not a representation of physical gender. But what that's saying is that even within this divine feminine, there is a seed of the masculine. And even if within this concept of the divine masculine, there is a seed of the feminine. So what I noticed, because I try not to get caught up in any of the hype or the polarity, right? I try not to get caught up. But what I noticed is that it's a lot of spiritual sisters out there. I won't even just say sisters. A lot of people that's on spirit, on this path that we're walking, and they see the rise of the feminine, and it's like it's the rise of the woman. Man, that white dot, that white side with the black dot, that represents my divine masculine, right? And within that is that seed, that feminine seed. And that's why I wanted to make clear at the beginning that when you're watching the movie, all these characters represent the self, represents you. So the raising up, just like the lowering of the divine feminine and the raising of the divine masculine, I won't even say divine. This, like you said, the patriarchy versus the matriarchy. The last 2,000 years, everything was elevated in terms of masculine patriarchy. Father's the head of the household. Now, on the surface, these concepts hold true in spirituality. That's why, like you're showing right now, the yang represents the positive, sun, light, heaven, active, fire, above, heat, generation, wake. The yin represents the negative, the moon, dark, earth, passive, water, below. So by the father being synonymous with the head of the household, that's not saying the gender aspect. That's saying that this aspect of within you, this duality that's contained within you, this aspect belongs on top. The other on the bottom doesn't mean any lesser, because we all know from the Kabbalion, as above, so below. Both are intertwined. Matter of fact, if you were to spin this yin yang symbol, the two colors would blend together and it would look more like gore. If you think about it, gore was a grayish color. Once he went to the shadow realm, he was on that middle pillar. he represented that balance between light and dark. Even though he was out of balance, in the end, he did reach it. And I want to show how he reached it, because I made a point at the beginning to say he did not cross the abyss. He was crossing it. He didn't cross it. There we go. You see that? So you see in here, even though that looks like the moon in the background, but we see here, these are shades of gray. We got some darkness, we got some light. These are shades of gray. So what's going on now is more things have been imbalanced, and as they should, because down here on Earth, or Malkuth, it's like a pendulum swing, right? And the swing to the left is indicative of the swing to the right. But at the same time, every time something swings to the far left, that's an extreme. When it swings to the far right, that's an extreme. The only time it's polarized in the center. Hey, can you go back one frame? I think it was one. I wanted to point something out. Okay, it's really there. I wanted to point out how right there, you see how Jane is standing in the background. We have those windows. We have that house. All of that applies to Tarot. The house in Tarot, the Empress card. No, the High Priestess is represented by Beth. That means a house. I thought it was real. There was a scene right here where they were fighting those Shadow Realm creatures, where Thor was standing and there was a house on fire in it, and it like tumbled. And so
when he finally met Jane.
Exactly. And so that was like a crumbling of his stereotypical idea of the feminine archetype. It crumbled. It burnt down and collapsed. So I just want to keep pointing out over and over. Anybody that's into Tarot, Kabbalah, you can go back over this movie and you'll see the same things. And hopefully, if you at the very least come to the same conclusions, I would hope you come to better. You know what I'm saying? And so,
yeah, scientifically speaking, the electromagnetic field, the electric part is the masculine energy, and the magnetic force is the feminine energy. So we have an electromagnetic field or aura around us. So the receptive, when we want magic, we want things to come in, you have to be tuned into the inner self. The inner self is that womb energy. So it's always going to be dealing with you tapping in to who you really are. Like a lot of times we rely on, like you said earlier, deities and gods and all these other things to quote unquote save us, right? Help us and do these things for us. But all these things are really within us. We can source all the knowledge, all the wisdom that we want within us, but we have to tap into that watery energy or that feminine energy.
Exactly.
70% water, universe 70% water. And so dark energy 70% water, we're 70% water, the earth 70% water. So it's obviously there's more of that energy that we are able to use. And I want to say this one thing and let you go. It's not about ego, because a lot of women, they're like, oh, it's the rise of the feminine, we're going to take over and we're going to be the number one. No, like you said, it's not about a physical person. It's about an energy. It's about a force that is coming online. And you could be a woman, but be in your masculine, be too much yang, right? Be too much on that other spectrum as a woman, and as a man, it's vice versa. You could be too much in your feminine, right? So it's always about getting back to balance. The universe is always going to try to put you in a state of homeostasis, so to speak. Always going to try to regulate you to where you're balanced. And the events that happen in your life are designed to do that, right?
Hey, I say this too. Backing up from this scene, remember when Jane was getting her chemotherapy, right?
Yeah.
I like when she was attempting to explain that high science to the dude who had her book.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, she broke down and was like, "You ever seen Event Horizon?" He was like, "Nuh-uh." You ever seen Interstellar? Nuh-uh. So I like that because that was a subtle way of showing that what we're doing now is the best way to understand high science. That is the best way, because movies have now replaced what was anciently known as mythology. See, long ago, they didn't have moving pictures. All they had were plays. Plays were a reflection of mythology. Matter of fact, That's why movies have replaced mythology, because there's only one story to be told.
And this is what this is how they taught in Kemet. You know, this is how they taught.
This is it. This is
why
you were told. This is why you were told a story, and then as you grew and as your understanding grew, so did the story, the mythologies that you were told as a child. So as you get older, you understand Little Red Riding Hood a little different from a little different perspective. And as you get a little older, you begin to understand it even more. And so that I love that part, because that was a subtle way of saying, if you decode these movies, you'll get the science necessary to understand the higher science. She wasn't saying it was all in the movies. She was saying this is how you go understand the higher science. So don't knock these movies. Yes, if you think about it, they all telling the same story. That's the basis and nature of you, who you are. You are being bombarded with all these images to remind you of who you are, and that there's only one story, and that there's only one God. You know what I'm saying? Now, whether you choose that one God for you to be Buddha, Allah, Sekhmet, Venom, Thor, whoever,
Black Panther,
you know what I'm saying? Because in that one scene, I'm gonna kind of keep on track. Remember when they went to Omnipotent City? Boss was there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Boss was there.
So was
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's showing you that all these concepts, they all tie in. Now, I don't want to keep skipping. We went from her chemo.
Chemo. And the sun was in Cancer, actually. That when the movie came out, the sun was in Cancer. So it was Cancer season, and Jane Foster had Cancer. So to me, she represented also an aspect of the sun. With Valkyrie, because that scene, that's when they were going to New Asgard. That was the next scene. They went to New Asgard. So that's when they were doing the plays, right? And then Valkyrie is a representative of the spirit, aka the Holy Ghost, right? Because she's a Valkyrie. She's able to fly. And they call her King Valkyrie. Because, which is some other shit. We won't get into that now. And to me, Korg is the soul, because he's the one who set off the movie. And he has the Aries on his belt buckle. You know, if you look.
Oh, I didn't peep that.
Yeah, look at Korg. Let me add this to the stream. Yeah, he has this. This is the cosplay version of his outfit, but he has this Aries on his belt, the ram. Yeah. So it's basically, and he's the one who starts the movie. He represents. So all these movies are zodiac signs. You know, they go to the zodiac. They go to the 12 signs, the zoomorphic. So if you understand symbolism, so once I saw him hit the belt, I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this.
You know? And that's why he opened it up, because Aries is synonymous with sunrise, eyesight, first sight. Yeah. That was dope. I think too, touching on her having cancer, and like you said, it came out in Cancer season. But what you also have to understand, like I was just saying, is that the feminine aspect represents the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind in mythology is portrayed as the underworld. So the fact that she died and went to Valhalla, and we know that that's not the end of her story. We know that people come back in these stories all the time, right? Even Jesus, when Jesus died and came back. So it's not. So I'm just saying, not that I'm saying it's appropriate that this aspect of the feminine died, but she's a representation of Thor's subconscious mind. And that's why, just to be, I want to tell the progression, but to jump to the very end, that was something that Thor realized. When Thor said in the very end, he was like, hey, man, you know, he like, how dare you turn your back on me? He like, hey, man, if this is it, then I'm finna become one with myself, because that's the whole point of the whole point of the Lover's card in Tarot is to find that perfect balance between the self-conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind, right? It was in that moment, and even Thor said it. And I don't know if Thor knew that his daughter's name was Love, but Thor said it at the very end. He like, man, that ain't what you want. What you want is love. And so there's a passage here, real quick, what I'm talking about. It's on my mind. I want to read one more passage, right, out of Paul Foster Case's book, where he talks about the need for the He talks about a need for the self-conscious mind, the conscious mind, to be in balance with the subconscious mind. If you think about the whole movie, Thor was where they both were in balance. If you think about it, Jane was kind of like the dude. Remember, she said, "Man, how long it been? 2-3 years?" He was like, "Nah, more like 8 years, 7 months, 6 days, and a few hours." You know what I'm saying? So their poles or they were kind of reversed, even though I did watch one of those Easter egg things, and it broke down how the reason why they were off is because of the blip, right? Jane got blipped away, so she lost 5 years, whereas Thor didn't. But still, Thor was all weepy and crying. Jane wasn't. Now, the way Jane is acting is usually how we expect, that's the typical male aspect, right? Kind of blasé, kind of nonchalant. He cared, but he's not going to show it. That was what Jane portrayed. Whereas on the flip side, Thor was kind of weepy, talking his friends to death. You know what I'm saying? Totally unaware of what was going on around him. So it was like a reversal. And so they had to find that balance. Not to say that we just discussed it. Jane, as a representation of the feminine, she has the masculine seed. And Thor, as a representation of the masculine, he has that feminine seed. But here, I want to read this real quick, where Paul Foster Case, in his book, The Key to the Wisdom of the Ages, the Tarot, he talks about the balance of, let me find it real quick. He talks about having that balance between the self-conscious and the subconscious. Oh, here we go right here. He says the relationship between self-consciousness and subconsciousness should be one of loving intimacy. Hence, the two figures are nude on the lover's card. They veil nothing from each other. This is not the state of affairs with most people. Too often, self-consciousness and subconsciousness are not on speaking terms. How many people are not on speaking terms with their subconscious? And what's meant by not being on speaking terms is how many people do not understand the language of their subconscious. Subconscious speaks in symbols. We have dreams we don't understand. Essentially, if you are not understanding your dreams, you are not on speaking terms with your subconscious. So the vice versa applies. If you're not on speaking terms with your subconscious, how are you going to implant suggestions into your subconscious, what you want to see manifested in your life? Only way to do that is through symbols, is by finding the common language. That common language is symbols. I'm gonna go on and read this, and then I'm gonna stop reading. It says, where was I at? Okay, he says here, consciously we accept this or that idea. Subconsciously, we seek the realization of its opposite. To correct this error, to establish harmony between these two phases of personality, is to have a clear, unmixed, unadulterated desires. Again, since love is the ideal relation between two modes of consciousness, this picture warns us against any attempt to bully or coerce the subconscious. Persuade subconsciousness, and it will do anything for you. Endeavor to drive it harshly, and you set into operation the law of reversed effort so that you get the result just opposite to that at which you aim. So the point I'm making is that we saw this in Thor and Jane's relationship. She was hiding from Thor the fact that she was dying. He was really hating from her that he had regrets and he wished they were still together. And so they only, throughout the movie, they kind of both had like kind of opposing views. If you think about it, I believe the Chariot card is in relation to speech, I believe. I think it's a Chariot. And you notice they kept making jokes about Jane. Remember, she was trying to come up with a catchphrase. You gonna eat
Salute
this?
to Davion Birdie. I appreciate that, bro. Respect.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just saying that to say that all of this ties in to being able to communicate masculine to feminine, feminine to masculine within yourself. So the conscious aspect of you that won't change, that wants to manifest a new car, a new house, $1 billion, whatever it is you're working on, the only reason it hasn't manifested is because you don't speak the language of your subconscious mind, right? And so that was shown in the movie because Thor and Jane were not speaking the same language. He was kind of like, oh, Korra made a good point in the movie. He said, "Oh, she's the one that got away, huh?" Thor was like, "Yeah." Korra said, "Sounds like a prisoner to me."
Mm-hmm.
And whoever, hey, that fucked me up. Because I was thinking, we all had those thoughts about the one that got away.
Mm-hmm.
You never think about the fact that, man, that person actually escaped who you were.
Fact.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so
that's a different level of accountability right there.
You know what I'm saying? A different level. That's the one that got away. Man,
Yeah.
she escaped. That sound, he said, sounds a lot like a prisoner to me, mate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so I just felt like the love and thunder aspect was on point. So let's say that right now we at basically like the middle, that omnipotent city, right?
No,
let's back up just one pace.
Mm-hmm.
When Gore came, we knew that Gore was a thinker. He was attacking these gods. Gore wasn't just doing this randomly. When he went to Asgard, the actual attack was a feint. That was a distraction. His goal was to get the kids, right? And so that struck me as kind of odd, because you figure with the Necro Sword, with those Shadow Realm creatures, he should have been able to just had on everybody head on. But what you have to realize is that children, in terms of symbology, like when you have a dream and you dream about kids and children represent potential, the elevation of thought. That's why, like in the Bible, it says the son of so-and-so, so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. It goes generations. These are progressions of a refinement of thought. You know what I'm saying? So for Gore to go after the children was for him to attempt to subdue their thought process, for lack of using too many big words, right? He was actually because if you think about it, a lot of the children, these were inheritors to Asgard and other races. Those children was like, matter of fact, Heimdall's son was like, man, I don't want to do with my daddy. You know, I'm finna be Axel. I'm finna be, you know, like this human rock star, right? And the other kids had no confidence in themselves. So it's about, I'm speaking in terms of symbology. So children represent a refinement of thought that should become greater than we were. That's why you have juniors, thirds, fourth, fifths, and so on. So I thought it was fitting that Gore, who's actually as the antagonist moves the story along. He pushes the hero through this hero's journey to reach these higher elevations. If he hadn't took the children, it would have been a whole different fight. You know what I'm saying?
A whole different fight, yeah.
Matter of fact, at one point, what I thought was hilarious, when Axel had spoke to Thor through the vision, and he was trying to give the other kids courage. He was like, you know, Thor killed all these bad guys. He cut off Thanos' head. He's coming to save us. Gore popped up and said, "Oh, we like that, right?" He conjured up a little snake, yanked his head off. "Oh, you don't like this?" And what that made me think about was, when we tell these stories, especially when we believe them to be literal, oh, it's fire. You know, not to pick at nobody, but I'm gonna point out the Hebrew Israelites at this point. You know, Yahweh, Yeshua, he coming back and he gonna destroy these pale people. He gonna do this and that, and he gonna kill this and that. But a lot of those same people, if they were actually to see some of the destruction in real life before them, they would flinch just like those little kids. You know, I believe it was me and you going back and forth on Facebook, Rob. We were talking about the people who were kind of like trying to talk up these wars and these. Remember, I forget what it was. You were saying people want this to happen. I forget what it was, but I remember I replied to your comment, and I was like, and these same people not even ready for everything they push it. They want a riot and a war to come and all this and that, but if it come down, what weapons you got? You know, what you gonna throw at the enemy other than amethyst crystals and lit sage? So it's like, right. and that was to me, that's what I got out that scene. While Axel could tell these stories and they sound heroic indeed, when it comes down to the actual sacrifice, man, you ready for that? Are you really ready for that? You know what I'm saying? So people need to understand that a lot of these stories are allegorical, and they're not to be meant to take it on the literal. Don't think that the Nibiru is going to swing down, sweet chariot, and let you ride. And that these
don't think the aliens are going to come down and scan you like some of these YouTubers telling you. The aliens are going to come and scan you, and if you're not right, they scan you. You're not going to be taken to Nibiru and Planet X. And
man,
come on.
I had somebody tell me, man, if I don't stop eating meat soon, I'm gonna miss the ride on the mothership. I'm not gonna ascend to the fifth dimension. You know, it's meat. And so I'm saying, like, so you mean to tell me that something physical is going to determine what happens to my mental, my spiritual, to my consciousness? You know what I'm saying? But these same people will tell you they have these ancestors on the altar that they venerate and they worship and they work with. Man, your granny didn't eat nothing but hog, mog, and chitlins, though. But yet she's in this
higher went to church.
And with the church. So I'm just saying these were good points. And I know there's way more than what I caught, but for me, that was a nice reminder of, you know what I'm saying, of keeping these things in perspective, because Gore was like a literalist in that sense. He snatched the head off that snake and tossed it to him. You know what I'm saying?
Like, this is real. Like, this ain't no vision, right? This is real.
Yeah. Oh, you like hearing stories about people getting their head chopped off? Well, watch this. You know? And so
and you know, his real name was Astrid because Thor called him Astrid, which was Heimdall's son, which was basically the astral, right? The astral.
Yeah.
So he was able to have those visions and see just like Heimdall was. Well, I thought that was interesting because when you're really seeing, right? When you're really seeing from the subconscious perspective, right? For lack of a better word, or you're seeing from the inside out, right? You're seeing Heru from a bird's eye vision, right? You're really looking from an astral perspective, from the dream perspective, but the dream is now you're living, quote unquote, living the dream, which is you being in the now moment, so to speak. Not waiting for when you get wealthy to be happy, not waiting for you to get a car or get your dream house or your dream girl or your dream man to be happy, but being in the now provides you access to the astral realm while you are awake. It's called daydreaming, but a daydream is nothing but a thought or a vision that is harnessed in the now. It's the same thing that happens when you are in a dream realm. There's a thought and a vision that is harnessed in the now, right? Which you call astral travel. Astral projection is when you're projecting your own thoughts and vision into the astral realm, so to speak. But the astral realm contains everything. It contains all. We're all part of the astral realm. So I thought that was interesting that his name was Astrid first, right? And then they said Axel, right?
Yep, that was fitting. That was dope. And you see how just to tie in more what you're saying about using these gifts, something that we all have, he didn't appreciate his natural talents until he found himself in a traumatic situation. And at that moment, Thor was the only tutor he had, and Thor was able to relay to him what his dad actually taught Thor. So while he was trying to distance himself from Thor, if you think about it, Thor told him, your dad taught me how to do it. You got to focus. You got to do this and that. So a lot of times kind of ties into what I was saying earlier about you listen to other people working with different deities and you want to do it. You have to appreciate where you are at, what you are able to do, and then you do it. And then just in keeping with the theme, it's not about doing shit. It's just about being. So once you learn how to do something, then you just be it. And we saw that at the end, because in the end, he had embraced that warrior aspect that his dad represented. He was training and stuff like that. So I just want to drop that just because that did touch me. I felt that initially he kind of wanted to distance himself from his inheritance, more or less, right? But it took trauma. It took trauma for him to be like, oh, I can do this, you know? Yeah, that's my guy right there. Gore was the truth.
Gore was the truth. Before we go into Celestial City, I want to touch on this part because when I was, looking at like the backstories, the breakdown of that video I sent you, Emergency Awesome, he was saying that these scars on Gore was basically, religious symbols, religious markings that he had. And if you look at the beginning, you'll see those markings that were on his face, those tribal symbols. And there's a deleted scene with him actually cutting the symbols off of his face, but they said it was too gruesome to put in the movie. But where after he does the scream and after he kills the god, there's actually a scene where he's cutting the symbols off his face. So a lot of times you have to, one of the main things is you have to let go of white Jesus, right? You have to let go of seeing the white man and Caucasian people as something that is higher than you. There's, with the queen dying, here you hear all these things, shape-shifting reptile, and they're transferring her consciousness to another body. I'm like, is this the queen motherfucking Thanos? You know what I'm saying? Is the queen so powerful that she could do all these things that are beyond your scope of understanding, or is your perception still having those religious symbols, right? Because are you still run by the cross subconsciously? Do you still think the white man is Jesus subconsciously? Because if everything he does, he's controlling the weather, he's controlling the government, he's controlling this, he's controlling that. Like, so then why are you here? What's your purpose? Brother man, king, God, magician, magus. Why are you here then? If they're all powerful and you can't beat them and you can't destroy them, and it disturbs me. I'm going on a little tangent, but it disturbs me whenever I hear a man specifically, right? Women, okay, I understand, they're receptive. But men, we're not receptive. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be assertive. So when I hear a man tell me, oh, they just got us trapped in all corners, or we can't get out of this, or there's no way they killed all of them, I'm like, yo, you're already defeated. You just go back to church and follow Jesus. At least maybe Jesus will give you some inspiration. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But don't follow this path if that's the way you're thinking, because this is a God path. This is an accountable path, a self-accountability path. And when you are self-accountable, you're able to be accountable for others as well in a much more proficient manner. So I think a lot of that, we got to strip these ideals of, people, the papacy, the government, the system, racism, all those things, right? Now is the time that we have to strip ourselves of those symbols and create our own symbols, You know
what I say too? I saw it all too. I refuse to join in on any conversation on the queen just because it was a polarized concept. And while we talk in middle pillar talk here, I strive for that balance. I'd have more respect for you if you had started talking about the queen a week before she died. Then I would know you was tapped in. You was on that frequency, right? But to join in with the crowd, there's a word for that. It's called occulocracy. The occulocracy means the rule of the mob. I'm not a part of the mob like that. But I will say this, though. A lot of us that's on this path, we talk about channeling and tapping into these energies. Man, how many of y'all tapped into the queen, though?
Fact.
Yeah, and I ain't talking about tapping in to tell her ding dong the witch is dead.
Right.
Not tap in, like give me
really
some.
See her spirit motherfucking flip in the astral.
Yeah,
meditate just like you learn, just like you people watch Marvel, Doctor Strange, Multitude of Madness. You didn't learn from that you could tap into anyone's spirit, including the dead, just via meditation.
Man, come on, and I'm just saying. So it's like whatever.
Like Hollow said, separation is an illusion. Real talk.
Yeah, hey, Hollow Vegeta, stay on it, man. Me and him, I know this brother stay on it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying like this though, is that to tie it in what you just said, man. You have no enemies outside of yourself. Keeping it real, 99% of the people posting them memes about the queen, she didn't affect you on no levels personally. At all. So to make her your boogeyman for the next week until somebody else dies, because actually it's kind of morbid. Keeping it real. It's actually kind of morbid. You know what I'm saying?
Every time a celebrity dies.
Come on. And
it's a conspiracy.
So I'll say this, and then I this topic I really like talking about. But I'll say this.
This is it. I just want to talk about this because it's part of the movie, And
I just want to tap into and give my nickel before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be all about what's being done to you. Back in the days, it was a rap group out here, man, called 415 out here in the Bay, and the one dude, Richie, used to say, "I'm an actor, I'm a factor, not an actor." Right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you? What are you? Don't fall into what they doing, because actually nothing exists out of you. We all one. So what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Don't, and see that ties into Gore. Gore gave everything he had to that deity until it
Mhm.
crushed him. Man, don't make this anonymous they more powerful than you, because
Right.
at the beginning you spoke on the secrets and secret societies, right? And whenever I hear secret, my mind flashes back to C. Fremantle. Secret only means sacred. It's not that it's secret. It's that somebody holds this at a, whatever they're doing, they hold it at a level that they consider it so sacred that really the words don't even cross their lips to anybody that's not initiated to the level that they at. And that applies the same thing when we work in these rituals and we ask for certain things and we working towards certain things, and it doesn't manifest right away. It doesn't manifest because you haven't been initiated to that level yet. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine a kindergartner getting $1 billion and nobody regulating how he spend it? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this is somebody you got to beg to brush their teeth every night, and you're gonna give him
Take
$1
a bath.
billion?
Right.
Yeah, take a bath. So
Yeah.
a better thing, like I said, Queen passed away. She got game. I mean, I haven't tapped in, but I'm not polarized like others. But I'm
Mhm.
saying, if I was, I would tap in, because I have tapped in to most of the people that everybody consider racist. I've tapped in. Shoot, at one point, I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but I'll say it. When I was on channeling super hard, I remember being like, "Ooh, I can't wait till so and so dies so I could talk to him." You know what I'm saying? And that was a part of that morbidity too, morbid mentality. Something I got over quickly, but I'm just saying to say that you develop these tools and you get the answers you need. If you feel like you're a victim, you get the answers you need to not become a victim. It's kind of like what Gore did. For him, it was the necro sword. Remember what we said? That was just him getting a spine. Man, once you get a spine, once you stand up and hold your head up erect, you actually start to see stuff differently. Man, ain't
And it was
nobody
the
doing
necro sword that he removed the images with, like in the deleted scene. It's actually the necro sword that he was chopping off the religious
bow.
symbols on
And
his
that's what you
face.
just said. Straight up. So I just wanted to drop that, and then we can move on to whatever.
Yeah.
What's next?
So we are in the city,
Okay.
Celestial City, where they so the first part of Celestial City that caught my eye. I'll put up a visual up on soon, but the first part of Celestial City that caught my eye is the emotional. They said it was emotional gods,
Yeah,
and they had
yeah.
the robes on with the orange, which was the sacral chakra that Valkyrie had. Thor actually had on a purple and blue thing robe, and Korg had on a white and red, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he was basically the root chakra coming from the
Yeah.
white to the red, right? And Valkyrie was the sacral chakra. She had on the orange, and then you had Jane Foster with the green on, right? But then you had Thor with the purple. So it was all just a progression of the chakras, which they had on when they was in the Celestial City, also showing you what you need to master. Your root chakra, right? Survival, getting out of survival mode, getting out of just having random sex, getting rid of just being tapped into your animal instincts, food, clothing, shelter, and sex, right? That's it, basic stimulation. Going to the sacral chakra, like you said, the sacral being something that's sacred. And if you tap into your sacral chakra, which is really your sexual energy or harnessing your sexual energy, your kundalini, through the sacral point, you will access secrets. You will be guided to certain books. You will be guided to certain websites. You will meet certain people at the grocery store at Whole Foods. Like, do you know, like, I know you probably have these experiences, but you'll meet people in the health food store at Whole Foods just out of nowhere, and then they drop some gems. You could be in a cab. You could see a homeless man with a sign, and that sign is just for you. I remember this homeless dude came by. We was going through something. Me and my man Raj. He might be ghost watching, but me and my man Raj, we was outside in the village in New York City, and we was talking or whatever. And he came. Homeless dude came up, asked for money, right? And we didn't have no cash on us. We just had our cards, right? He was like, "Nah, we don't got it or whatever." And he was like, "That's all right. That's all right, brother. Because you know what?" He said, I must exist. I will exist. And that's like me and him to this day. And this is like maybe 12, 13 years ago. But that's our thing between ourselves whenever we're going something. You know what I'm saying? I tell myself that when I'm going through some shit. You know what I'm saying? And it was that something little like that. So when you are really tapped into the sacred part of yourself, it enlivens your heart chakra, which is your connecting chakra, and your crown chakra, which is where you see, like his thoughts is like bluish, yellow indigo. So it's like basically the third eye chakra or the ajna chakra up into the crown. So it's the activation, those like you said, each character is just a representative of you. These are archetypes of you, right? These are not things outside of yourself. These are things inside of yourself. Every deity corresponds to something in nature that is corresponding to something that is within you. Because you are nature, you are natural, you are a Netaru yourself as a soul. So everything in the universe is really designed for your best interest. All the planets, this whole universe is designed to get you to the next level and ultimately get you out of this physical body, so to speak, and transport into the real abyss, right? Into where you go doing the real work, right? And that's becoming a star and having your own galaxy based on my understanding, right? But go ahead.
Now you call good money, and especially those colors. What you got to understand is that it was a progression in terms of we've been talking about the middle pillar on the tree of life, and so each of those walk you up that progression. You know what I'm saying? Even in terms of their battle plans, right? Core was kind of grounded, kind of like, hey, he was cool just with being there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The Valkyrie, she was about action. You know what I'm saying? And then Jane was just like the core of everything. We got to get this going so we can save them kids. Thor was kind of on some, let's just commune with the guys. But what I do, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, it was showing that it was showing that dichotomy. But I also want to say too is, I want to piggyback on something you said, is that all of these chakras, what you have to realize is that, and C. Freeman L. dropped this the best, that sacral chakra, that sacredness, you can work with that simply through breathing techniques. He spoke on how every 72 hours, every 24 hours, a man produces more sperm, a woman more ovum. Every 72 hours, that sperm or ovum travels up the spine, marinates with them pineal juices, and then makes its way back down, right? And so through breathing techniques, you can draw this, you can make it an endless cycle where you bring it up. And this is where the term a brain child comes from. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, I believe it's in the Bhagavad Gita, where they talk about, this is the actual process to bring down like an ascended master into the flesh. If two people are thinking about having kids, right? You can work these methods through breathing techniques, consciously drawing that energy upwards, then pulling it downwards, and then simply, man, just not busting nuts every day. It takes 24 hours to reproduce semen and ovum, and it takes 72 hours for it to travel up and down. Not to make abstinence or semen retention like a religion, but it can serve a very vital and important function. I just want to say that. We can move on.
Okay, so we're in Celestial City right now. So we touched on those aspects. What do you think about Zeus and the lightning? With him having the lightning bolt, and basically, so that scene is like when Thor was asking for help for Zeus. Zeus is like, nah, F out of here. You know what I'm saying? We ain't thinking about that. I'm not gonna help you. And they basically had to jack him for the thunderbolt.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see in that? That's really like the end of that scene.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of a trip because Zeus is a correspondence to Odin, right? Zeus is a correspondence to Odin, his father. You know what I'm saying? And Zeus is a representation, Odin, Zeus. These are representations of Jupiter. So you would think that Odin would be feeling him. You know what I'm saying? And Odin actually represents everything that Gore is trying to get rid of. Like you said, it came down to the fact that they had to jack him for it. You know what I'm saying? They had to jack that man for any kind of help. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was important, just in showing how, because these archetypes that we call gods and deities, they are nothing more than thought forms that countless billions have poured energy into. You know what I'm saying? And so now they're just rogue thought forms that get to do what they want to, that actually get to feed off you. Where initially you were feeding off them. They were created to serve a purpose, and then that purpose became a function, and then we became slaves to a function. I say we because at one time most of us were. You know what I'm saying? So
slaves to Jesus.
Yep, come on. And
yeah,
so
slaves to Jesus. Yeah.
And so I thought it was
because he's a jealous God, right? So we were slaves because we didn't want to do nothing else because God is a jealous God. Jesus was a jealous God.
And now let me say this: I'm gonna jump again to the end. I know we walking, but I want to jump again.
We close to the end anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah, the real problem that Zeus had was that actually that Thor was an Avenger, and Avengers are a collection of superheroes or demigods, right? And so, if you think about it, the real problem that these thought forms have with the Avengers, because remember in the very end, he said it used to be they prayed to us for rain. Now all they want is for a superhero. The superhero, or I'm going to quote Friedrich Nietzsche, the Ubermensch, right? The Superman is actually above the gods. That's why Zeus was really more offended, because the gods have been replaced with these supermen. Now, the supermen that Nietzsche spoke on, thus spake Zarathustra, right? When Nietzsche speaks on the supermen, which is where we get this concept of superheroes from, superheroes, that whole concept derives from demigods. Demigods being a mixture of a goddess for a mother or father and a human for the mating of that pairing. And that pairing actually elevates above the actual god. So truthfully, Zeus's whole problem was he had a problem with superheroes because they had started doing what the gods used to do, which is perform what they profess. You know what I'm saying? The gods used to make it rain, but man, now they in their feelings because y'all don't need us no more. Even though if you think about it in terms of gods, I'm just talking in terms of MCU. Superheroes represent a blink of an eye in terms of all the time that gods and goddesses been around. But yet you mad at superheroes because they've begun to do what you no longer do. And I think that's indicative of this time that we live in, because now, on the cusp of the age of Aquarius, this information flowing, this knowledge available at anybody's fingertips, we're now realizing the errors of having an external deity. Hollow Vegeta. I got so much Vader. Yeah, I got a Vader helmet up over my head. My altar over here to the right is littered with nothing but Star Wars, C-3PO, Yoda. You know what I'm saying? That's the deities I got up there. You a part of I know Hollow Vegeta from the Mages Academy, and I have all my representations for Generation, Operation, and Destroyer. I keep Vader on my altar. I got him all around my house. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing I want to divert on real quick is you should have these images around you to remind you of these aspects, and not just to remind you, but I have Darth Vader because before I was on any of this, I was born in 73. In 77, I stood in line to go watch I'd Never Forget It, and I was scared to death of Darth Vader. You know what I'm saying? And so these different archetypes, they represent certain things to us, and when you put them around your home, they serve as visual reminders, especially once you put that spiritual energy behind it, right? And so the same thing with having these books. I say it all the time. Every time I get a new book, I tuck it under my pillow for about a week, and I go to sleep imagining myself reading it in the astral.
I wish I could show you. I sleep with books in my bed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I do the
I
same
sleep
thing.
with like I usually running through like 2 or 3 books, you know, and
Yep.
I sleep with books in my bed. Like I
Come on,
literally
I
have
do it.
books surrounding me. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I do it under my pillow because I'm reminded of that Bible verse where Jacob went to sleep on that rock, right? He laid his head on that rock and had that vision of the stairs heading from earth to heaven. So me growing up to a witness, that's my idea of ascending to the astral, right? So I put these books under my pillow as I drift off. I thumb through it before. As soon as I get it, I open up a book. I'm gonna read some select pages. I might look for a chapter that catch my eye, go to it, read a little something, close it, put it under my pillow, and then I'm gonna go to sleep with the vision. I'm gonna see myself like a daydream. I'm gonna set the stage of me reading that book. And so, believe it or not, none of these books are new. There's nothing new under the sun. You know what I'm saying? These books just represent information that's actually, it's like uh the earth has its own Akashic record. And so, like, I'll say this: when Alexander the Greek, when he burnt all them books in Alexandria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that was horrible. All he did was release it back to the Akashic.
Yeah, that's it.
All he
Yeah,
did.
that's
So
it.
a lot of these books, you might not. When I go in to read, I in the astral, this might not be the specific book I'm reading, but it's going to be on the same topic. And then when you do read it, that's why you say, "Oh, I already knew that." Of course you did, because you already tapped in. So
You already
yeah,
downloaded it. Yeah, you already
you know what I'm saying.
downloaded it.
So yeah, but you can never have enough. I would bring a few items over, but we ain't got to go there. But I
Yeah,
just
but
wanted.
I'm just like you. I got like I was telling in my because I did a Queen Elizabeth breakdown, and I was
Uh,
I decoded it. But I was talking about Thanos. Like I got Thanos. I got Black Panther in here.
uh-huh.
You know, representing my youth melanin. I got Thanos. I got the whole Hulk guards my house. Hulk could make sure nobody comes in. You know what I'm saying? He's been empowered with that duty. He does it well. Keeps it safe. Um, just using these different, like you said, using these different mythologies and personalizing them and making them active in your day-to-day life is spirituality. It's Travis calls them servitors. If you talk about Travis Magnus, right? He calls them
Yep.
servitors, right? And using them as basically to serve you, empowering that thing like you empowered when you were a child, and it puts you back in that childlike mentality as well, that imaginative mentality. And ultimately, God, I always say God is a creator, and God loves the creators most. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when you are creating these archetypes or creating energy around these particular, inanimate, so-called inanimate objects, right? But they're made of plastic. They're made of natural materials, right? They're made of metal in the joints, right? So there is a natural connection to you because you have every element in your body made of stardust, just like the Black Panther or the Thanos or the Dark Vader or the CP3O. So it's not so much of a mythology or us, doing some woo-woo, imaginative, out of this world thing to sync with something that is here, because everything has life, everything has energy, everything has black body radiation. So you could tap into that as long as you put your intention into it, and it'll go work for you.
Yeah, I say this too. A lot of the things, whether it's a picture, I have a lot of images. I wish I had most of my books. I stuff images in them, right? And I do that because that's one of the things. That's a tool that helps me, like astral projection, things like that. That's why when I get a book, I'm not gonna lie. Most books I get, I flip through it for the pictures, because sometimes the Tree of Life is one. Dion Fortune, she says how so many people have meditated on certain symbols that when you go in and work with it, it's like you get a free cheat sheet. You get the benefit of all that other work. You get these downloads. And I'm gonna give you an even better example. When I wrote my book, right, Rob? When I wrote my book, I started getting these downloads, and to be honest with you, I started saying, like, I don't even know where this shit coming from. And I wanted to write a book that I could verify with scholarship. I wanted to be able to say that, if you want to challenge me on this, then go to this book, this page, this paragraph. A lot of it I couldn't even verify. Some of it, I'm gonna be honest, started writing my book 2015, released it 2020. some of the confirmations and stuff I put in my book, I didn't find it till after I released my book. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
It's just that I got these downloads. I searched and struggled to verify it. And eventually I found a book that did say, oh, yeah, this is this and that. So I'm just saying that to say that these objects, whether it's a poster, T-shirt, book, you can use them as scrying tools. You can use them as a means to go to the astral and to commune with this, whatever it represents. You can tap in and gain a balance with it, or if not even a balance, just to understand it. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I guess we could keep going. So after that scene, I'm a little loopy. I think after that scene is when they went to when they actually went through the underworld, when they went to the Celestials, stole the lightning bolt, right?
Yeah.
And I remember Valkyrie, she was the one initially who had the lightning bolt, right? And she represented the sacral, right? So representing that sexual energy or that kundalini energy, what you were talking about as far as semen retention, especially for men, right? Because, I'll give credit to Adika Butler in his book. He says, and I concur. He says that you'll see a woman that's promiscuous and has sexual energy. There's someone on the internet, I forgot her name, but there's a sister. That's all she talks about is masturbating things into existence. You know what I'm saying? Like she masturbates and she manifests. She's like masturbate and manifest. She's like I masturbate sometimes 3-4 times a day. If you're a man and you do that, you're not going to manifest them. You know what I'm saying? Because you're draining that kundalini energy. Because we're different, So you'll see a woman that's sexually promiscuous and still, quote unquote, successful or still able to do certain things because she's a receiver. She's able to receive certain energy as a womb being. But as a man, you have to practice some sort of, from my perspective, some sort of semen retention, some sort of discipline where you're able to discipline that energy. Not only does it help in that case, and just spiritually, but it helps sexually too, where you're not, quote unquote, coming fast,
I mean, keeping it real. The French word for orgasm, for masculine orgasm, you know what it is? Right? It's le petit morte, the little death. Every time a man ejaculates, it's a little death. So I would say this: most people think of semen retention, they think of abstinence, celibacy. It's not that, because you have what's known as ejaculation. Plenty of books on it. I'm gonna be honest. I used to practice this stuff when I was younger, just to show you how you got to have faith in yourself, even when you were in a quote unquote dead state. When I was in my early 20s, I practiced ejaculation, not for no spiritual things, just so I could last longer up in the yacht. That was it. And so as I got older, I understood the basis of it. So now I'm gonna be honest, I don't practice, I'm married, right? But what I do is I consciously raise that divine elixir from my sac all the way up. I consciously bring it back down. I don't go as hard as I used to in my younger days, but I still practice ejaculation. You know what I'm saying? And so these are concepts that, again, you don't want to turn them into many religions.
Right.
You want to get the usage out of it. Of course, you're a scientist, man, practice by all means. So if it take, you know what I'm saying, running through a few thoughts and, you know what I'm saying, working it out, you work it out.
Right.
But once you get that understanding, then you take it to the next level, because it's not about the physical aspects. It's about the spiritual aspects, where now when I do certain breathing techniques, it's not going to be 72 hours that I envision bringing it up and drawing it back down. It's that now that I know the process, I know that there's a part within me physically that will notify the higher aspects to make it kick in spiritually, because it's not solely about your physical semen or ovum in a woman. It's about that spiritual essence, because like in the Bible, the land of milk and honey, that's where those two meet up in here. You know what I'm saying?
A good book, Hollow, is anything by Mantak Chia. Mantak, Mantak Chia. He has a book that I highly recommend for any man called The Multi-Orgasmic Man. And that book has a lot of illustrations, has a lot of sexual techniques. And he goes in as far as anything sexually related for men and women, right? I recommend Mantak Chia highly. He's definitely a master.
That's what's up. That's what's up. See, I ain't gonna lie. You know what's crazy? We didn't have all this back in the 90s, you know?
Nah, we do.
And sometimes I sit up and think to myself, I was literally going to libraries, man. And you know how awkward that is going to a librarian? Yeah, I'm looking for something on Egyptian ejaculation. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You get to learn how to work out those index cards real good at the library. You know what I'm saying?
Real good. Yeah.
So now you can Google it. You can actually create. You know, hey, on a quick side note, do you know that Google keeps track of your what you Google, and you can actually win an award
For real?
what you Google?
I had no idea.
If you ask a very unique question that's never been asked before, Google will contact you and give you an award. It kind of looks like an Emmy, like not an Emmy. Who gets the little crystal, the little tall crystal?
I think it's the Tonys.
They give you like this little crystal, yeah, and it'll have your question on there. Can you imagine asking a weird question about ejaculation and Google contact you and say you have won an award? We're gonna send that thing to you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but
360 degrees of knowledge, right?
You know what I'm saying? hey, but see now them is common questions, right? You'd be surprised though. I know it's some weird shit going on.
Yeah, it's definitely a spiritual renaissance, man.
Hey, that's all it is. And in a way, I joke a lot. I say that we are not fully in the age of Aquarius, and we're not fully out of the age of Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
So I call it the Piquarian age.
Okay, I like
and that's a lot of the confusion you see. I tell you something. A lot of the anger I get on social media, it comes from people who profess spirituality, but they profess spirituality. They have access to all this information, but they're still Pisces in mindset because they're still followers. And so they get super upset about something you post. Yahweh wouldn't do this and that, this and that. Right. And it's like, relax.
Relax. You know? Like yesterday I posted about the Woman King. And this dude was like, "Are you on cocaine? Do you know how racist?" I'm like, "Bro, I just said I like the."
Come on, hey.
I even said I was like, breathe. You know, it's okay. Like we could have a difference of opinion. And then he still came back and attacked me.
I think I was on that thread. It
was weird.
Weird. So it's just, and that's a sign of that Piquarian. You can close that door, bud. You're welcome. Come on in. That's a sign of that Piquarian mindset, right? You know, that's that confusion. And I just say that's what lets you know that the pendulum is about to swing in the other direction, because we are on the cusp of this true Aquarian age. And actually, I will say this, it's actually kind of ingenious that we find ourselves on we're on the age of the Aquarius is a knowledge bringer, right? But right now we're in the what age? The information age. Information is not knowledge.
No.
Right? So a lot of people, knowledge is to know the ledge, right? Information, I couldn't tell you.
All you have to have is a photographic memory. That's one of my earlier videos. Like a lot of the popular speakers that people know, and it's only because I met a couple that had photographic memories. And one guy in particular that I used to pay stress with, like I'd be like, how you know? Like I'm like, how you know all this stuff, bro? This is back in early 2Gs before the internet was popular. And I'd give him a book. He'd be like, yo, give me that book. And I get the book or whatever. And he'd come back the next day, and this guy has like just the knowledge on like word for word. I'm like, how do you know this? And he was like, I got a photographic memory. Don't tell nobody. You know what I'm saying? He said I could see something, and once I see it, I got it. I can recite it word for word. So a lot of your speakers just have highly developed brains, highly developed neural connections to where they could remember things and recite them back to you. But you have to watch their character. You know, you have to look at the information they're giving you, and you have to question it for yourself. Like I say, if I hear something from a speaker on YouTube and it sounds too good to be true, I'm checking it for myself. I'm not just going to take their word for it because they're a speaker or because I like them, or because they wear certain clothes, or they look like they're spiritual,
or because it agrees with something on the ego level.
Exactly. You have to do your own knowledge and do your own studies. Like if you believe that a spaceship is going to come, okay, where is the proof? What is the evidence? What source that if you meditate, do you really believe? Do you see that? Is that what you see is coming to save you? Like, be realistic. Like take these things, listen, but make your own judgment and make sure it makes sense. Make sure it's logical.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of things I think that people take for granted when we're watching movies like this is we enjoy it, we decode it, and then you move on. But what you got to understand that there is not a single movie where the protagonist does not do the work, right? So it's one thing to hold a belief. It's another thing to be able to challenge it and do the work. Now, I say this. What's his name? I can't think of his name. He was a popping. He was a black. He was intellectual. I can't think of his name. I can see his face in my mind. But either way, it's a thing known as. There's a way of proving your own argument against yourself. And I can't think of the name for it's a term. And that term means it's called dialectics. It's called something dialectics. It'll come to me. The thing about it is this. If there is something you believe to be true, the way you prove it is this. We can say true or false. Matter of fact, let's go with false. If there's something you believe to be false, dialectical engagement. My memory kicked in. There's a term known as dialectical engagement. And dialectical engagement is a process where you can vet any information for yourself. So dialectical engagement goes like this. If you believe something to be false, you flip that dynamic, you assume it to be true. And you find all the information you can to prove it true. If you cannot find that information satisfactory, then you were correct in your assumption that it was false. If you believe it to be true, you assume the opposite and you seek out every bit of information to prove it false. If you cannot prove it false beyond a shadow of a doubt, then your original hypothesis was true. Now, that's not the end of dialectical engagement, because as your understanding grows, as you reach different levels, you can revisit something, see it from a different level, do the same process, and come to better or different results. So I'm just saying that to say in terms of, for the people out there, like lately, I was accused of being a fake shadow worker and a worshiper of Saturn. I was more offended by being called a fake light worker. Like, what about me? What about me says I'm a light worker though, right?
Right.
But what I did, instead of going back and forth and getting heated and how dare you call me a light worker, man, I got Baphomet on my altar. Man, I thought about it and said, man, about 3 different people got at me about Saturn this week. I totally threw out their disagreement, broke out 6 or 7 books I got on my shelf on Saturn, and I've been to work for the last 3 weeks.
That's how you do it. Yeah.
I said, oh, this is a channel.
Those are what I call those breadcrumbs on the road, you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So I didn't engage in nobody else's humanity. I did the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got all these books. And to be honest with you, I'm going to show you how my mind still be. I'm at work and I'll start Googling shit to where I had to remind myself, nah. Tomorrow, bring 3 books to work, because these Google fingers will get you in trouble. Some people's favorite YouTubers, man, be on Google the whole time they talking. I'm not saying you gotta have. I'm not saying that you gotta. You see, I brought books,
mm-hmm.
but what I'm saying is, see, Google is deceptive in that. I was listening to one of these engineers that work on Google. And the thing is, depending on how you phrase your question, Google would literally tell you what you want to hear. That's why it has all those prompts that kind of finish your sentence, trying to tell you where you want to go with it. Now, that's okay to some extent. Some people think it's conspiracy theory. Oh man, they read my mind. No, there's an algorithm that's designed to predict what you want to ask. So in a way, we're talking dialectical engagement. If you want to set out to prove something false, depending on how you Google it, it's going to tell you you're right. It's false. If you Google, if you frame your questions right, it's gonna tell you right. Everything you was right and they wrong. That's why you get a book. It's not gonna tell you, because I've never read a book that I agree with 100%.
Never.
It's always something you're gonna read and like, I don't know about that. It might take a little longer for you to come to the understanding of why the author said that. But the point I'm making is the original Google was right here. You got to weigh this on your own scales of Ma'at. Matter of fact, Ma'at T, that active form of justice and balance. You got to weigh that on your own scale. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Google is designed to just really tell you what you want to hear. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like I said, I get these channels once I recognize it. Because every now and then, I put on my red nose and my red hair, and I'll clown right with you. If you want to go, I will clown. I posted something about Baphomet, and somebody hit me with and he could have been joking, because you can't tell nobody's demeanor. Said, sounds to me like Baphomet's a transgender.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said in my mind, I started laughing. I ain't going there with you. I said, right. But tell me your pronouns before I respond, though. Right? Your pronouns. Mother, he be back with all spouty faces. You got me. Yeah, you was fishing. Cut it out. Get up out of here, Oh, Vincent L. Cristal, he says, what is light, though? Let me say this to you.
That's a good segue into this scene, but go ahead.
Because they went to the realm of the shadow realm, which is devoid of light.
Yeah, now, that's the next one. So that's
I believe it was the last one we did. There's a Latin saying, lux tenebris, I forget the name, but it says that out light bursts forth out of darkness, and the darkness is comprehended it not. Light is synonymous for degrees of thought and consciousness, right? Which is why fire is thought to be of an element, fire is thought to be even higher than fire is above air, because fire rises above air. This is all synonymous with thought processes, higher forms of thought processes. Like when Ra spoke on the fact that Kor had the ram on his belt, right? The ram of Aries represents the first sign in the zodiac, represents the rising sun, right? When light first breaks over the horizon. That's why sun rises in the east, sets in the west. The west is known as the place of darkness, right? This is where the sun sets, like in Egyptian mythology. When the sun set, Ra got a battle with Apep. You know what I'm saying? And then he battles with him until the sun rises again. So light is synonymous with not just its thought, but it's not the thought process of, I got to get up, I got to go to work, and I got to take a shit. Or let me call this girl before she starts tripping. Let me do this. It's not those thoughts. It's about the elevation of we were talking earlier about self-consciousness, being self-aware. That's light. Because truthfully, what we call darkness is just another form of light that we can't comprehend. You know what I'm saying?
We can't see with the physical eye.
So in
electromagnetic spectrum.
Exactly. In truth, there is no darkness.
Put that up.
So light is synonymous with being aware and being conscious. Darkness is synonymous with being ignorant and unaware. But as you raise your light, as you come to a deeper understanding, I'll tell you like this. Do you know that your skin, the skin on your body, is made up of the same thing as your eyes? Your whole body is designed to collect and process light. Your eyes, which we give our eyes credit for seeing, right? Oh, I saw that. There was an old school saying back in the days, believe half of what you hear and none of what you see unless it's coming from me. Now, that was some slick pimp talk, but it was actually true, because your eyes don't see a thing. Your eyes relay images via electrical chemical stimulation to your brain. Your brain is encased in literal darkness. Your brain sees nothing. Your brain interprets these symbols and says that's a chair, that's the color white, that's the color blue, that's a stop sign. So truthfully, what you're here for is the collection and accumulation of light. That's why your skin is designed to and matter of fact, that's also why being melanated, we absorb more light. We absorb more light codes. You know what I'm saying? Because light is the object of our search. You know what I'm saying? Essentially, if you think about it, that your skin is actually, your epidermis is actually an eyeball. You're actually just a walking eyeball. That's all you are. And so I always think about that. Like when you hit me up about the solar flare today. You know what I'm saying? Truthfully, you want to be outside to catch them rays, right? At the same time, though, we got to ask ourselves, like in the Matrix, do you think that's air you breathing? You can actually tap in. You can tap in wherever you at, right?
You are. Even in the house,
Because this physical light is, it's a symbolic representation of that other light. You know what I'm saying? And Vincent, let me know, man, if I'm not being clear. I don't want to speak in spiritual jargon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, real quick, Vince, just to give you a visual, like real quick, like this is gamma rays, X-rays. This is the electromagnetic spectrum. So this is the visible light, right? All light is electromagnetic. So this is all we see. So we don't see X-rays, we don't see gamma rays, we don't see these waves, microwaves, radio waves, right? TV waves. You're not seeing the Wi-Fi that's going through your house right now, right? You're not seeing the Wi-Fi that's on your phone. You don't see the radio. You don't see the microwave waves when they're cooking your food or whatever, right? Infrared waves are the basic foundation. X-rays come out of black holes normally. So that's X-rays come out of black holes, and also the sun produces X-rays and gamma rays, right? Gamma rays are the highest waves. But this is all you can see. So look at how much is available, right? How the frequency from down here, you could say lower level entities that reside, or lower level frequencies of vibrations that reside, and then as the higher frequencies and entities, right, reside on that wave. So depending on your frequency, right, that's why I say frequency is what you do frequently. You want to engage so that you going from your visible light is able to tap into the invisible light, so to speak. And this is where you get your downloads, your uploads, your quote unquote inspiration, right? And your access to all sorts of different things. So light, the visible light is very, very, very limited. There's not that much that we actually see with these two eyes, you know. So the third eye, though, is where you're able to tap in, or that pineal gland. When you engage in that DMT, this is why when you sleep, you can go into different worlds, because your frequency is now changed, your vibration is now changed, and you're able to travel basically as as solar wind. Speaking of it scientifically, you're basically able to travel as a ball of plasma, which is what the sun is putting out. So you're able to move as an astral body through the universe because your vibration is now shifted. So if you're able to astral travel or leave your body, or you have sleep paralysis, that's what's happening. Your frequency is changing from visible light into invisible light. So this is why you're able to cruise through the darkness of space.
And you know what? Let me jump into and say this. That's why when you meditate and when you dream, the blues are a lot bluer. The whites are more flecked with gold and more vibrant. The reds are more alive, and you know what I'm saying? I want to do this though, real quick on the topic of light. I got right here J.C. Cooper and Illustrated Encyclopedia of Symbols, right? This is my go-to joint. I actually was going to grab my Manly P. Hall book on Man the Grand Symbol, but I want to read this real quick on what it says about light. Now, he has a lot, so I'm not going to read it all, but it says here, light, manifestation of divinity, cosmic creation, the logos. The logos is the word in the Bible. When it says the word in the beginning was the word was God, and the word was God, that's the logos, right? The universal principle and manifestation, the primordial intellect, life, truth, illumination, gnosis, direct knowledge, the incorporeal, the source of goodness, radiance symbolizes new life from divinity. It is the first thing created, the power of dispelling evil and the forces of darkness. Light and darkness are dual aspects of the great mother, life and love, death, burial. So I just wanted to say that just to say we have these general concepts of light, and then you have to form what it is for you personally. for me, light is just me opening myself up to realization that there is no darkness. One of the things I always remind myself is that the word ignorance contained within that word is to ignore. And to ignore something implies a choice. The weatherman can tell you it's going to rain tomorrow, but you can ignore that and not leave out the house with an umbrella. That's your choice. You can choose to ignore it. So for me, the difference between light and darkness is that I choose to see. I don't choose to ignore. I don't choose ignorance. I'm talking a lot of tarot talk. In tarot, when you see white on a person, it's usually covered or it's not covered. For light to be covered, that, like, I believe it's on the magician. Right under his robes, he has on white, which symbolizes that any time he can shed, he has black over white, I believe. Either way, he can shed his ignorance to get to the light and things like that. But what you have to do is first understand what the general meaning of light is and the context of which it's used. And then from there, you figure out what light means to you personally. And then you'll have the perfect understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, the things I've mentioned, that's what hammered it in for me. That might just be gobbledygook. I might be talking Charlie Brown, womp, womp, womp. When I say that your skin is light, it's the object of your existence is to search out for more light and this and that. I ain't gonna lie, what Rod just posted, that was a dope breakdown. That was a dope visual. That helped to hammer it down even more for me. Like when he showed the difference between the gamma, the X-ray, the UV, that narrow band that we see. And then from there, you have the radio and all these other things. But the thing about it is light, as it applies to consciousness, is synonymous with your higher self, spirit. Earth is like, earth as an element, it's grounded, it's found, everything is in vibration. The Kabbalion teaches us that. Everything is moving. Light happens to be moving at a faster rate. What is it? 1,860,000 miles a second, right? Mm-hmm. So light is at a faster, a higher vibration. You slow your vibration down. Most of us are here on Earth. A lot of people are just here, which is what they know, which is why they fear the dark, which is why they fear death, which is why they can have the audacity to fear a planet like Saturn, right? What did the planet do to you that's so evil? But we understand the power that these things have because we see the effects that the moon has on planet Earth. That's where we get the term lunatics from. When the tide goes in and out, it's affected by these planets. So we know that all these things play a part. The moon reflects sunlight. Matter of fact, if we never saw the sun, we would know it existed simply because the moon reflects that light. We would know that light doesn't come from within the moon. It's a reflective surface. So light is also something that tells us where we are in the position of things. That's why in actual science, they say this darkness of space, this dark matter, you actually need 3 points to know where you are. That's why they call it triangulation. You have this point, you have, you could probably help me out with the 3 points. But I know it takes 3 points to triangulate where you are. I'm pretty sure it's longitude, latitude, and something else. But you get these 3 points and you can triangulate where you are. Well, light is something that helps you to triangulate where you are in terms of your consciousness. And I don't want to keep going on and on, but I hope that between the two of us, we gave you a good idea. I would still say get you some good books on symbols. You can get a good book on dream symbols too, and you narrow down what the general idea of light is, and then fix it in what it is for you, and then from there it's like rungs on a ladder. You'll start to find what you need everywhere to not only personalize that concept, but also to raise your light. That's a good question because you hear it all the time. Oh, you got to raise your light. I'm not gonna let nobody dim my shine. But if you think about it, we use it all the time in the correct way. You know, most comic books and stuff, when somebody gets an idea, a light bulb clicks on in a cloud above their heads. You know, we got so many different sayings involving light that, you know, the concept is there. You just kind of gotta give it some real thought. Don't let it be like a passing thought. Give it some real thought, and trust me, you'll get your answer in terms of synchronicity. Matter of fact, the very best thing I would suggest you do is, as you drift off to sleep tonight, and I say drift off, don't do it as soon as you lay down. When you feel yourself starting to get sleepy, ask yourself at least 3 times, what is light? What does light mean to me? Man, what is light? What does light mean to me? And after you say it to yourself at least 3 times, visualize whatever light looks like in your mind. And trust me, if you don't recall it from the dream, you'll get your answer while you woke. Yeah.
Major key. Talking to yourself. Yeah, major key.
Yeah.
That's one of the spiritual things that is not really discussed as often. So I'm glad you touched on that, man.
Yeah.
Talking to yourself and asking yourself, even sometimes when you got pain in your body and headaches, sometimes if you talk to yourself and like, look, I need this headache to go away. Look, this pain in my knee, I need it to stop. Your body will start to coalesce and it will start to work on your behalf. You know what I'm saying? If you command it to do so, it will work. Speak. So that's another form of light as well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
light is essentially information, but light, like he said, is what is light to you. Like what is it that you are giving light to, or you are focused on? What is it that makes shines in your eyes? What is it that glows in your eyes? What is it that's visible in your eyes? You know, to some people, light is human trafficking. You know, that's what they do on a day-to-day basis. They look for people to victimize. You know, I'm using an extreme just to make a point, you know, but that's what their light is. That's their day-to-day thing. That's what they're focused on. That's their information. That's their glow. That's their, in Kemet, they have a deity, Kepera, you know, the dung beetle. And the dung beetle always moves towards the sun. You know, it rolls its ball of dung and it moves towards the sun. And that's just, and even in the moonlight, it still moves towards moonlight, right? It moves as the sun ascends, rises to the east and sets in the west. It always moves according to where the sun is. So I say that to say the light is where you focus on. This dung beetle is focusing on the sun, and that's how he does his work. So it's basically a representation of him, of the beetle tapping into nature, or you as a soul, as a worker. When you wake up during the day, what is your light? What are you focused on? What type of work are you doing to get you from day to night, right? What is your light? Your light will reflect in your work, just like the dung beetle is planting seeds in that dung to feed their family, right? And also create more beetles.
You know what? I want to say this
there's
too.
a lot of science in nature if you study it. Oh, and one more thing real quick, Mike, before you go in. That's a good book.
I got that. I got that sucker. That's a good book.
I got this off you. You the one who put me onto this.
Oh, word? Okay. Yeah, I got that. That's a good book.
Yeah, I got this off your videos.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Professor got a YouTube channel, by the way. So
yeah, dictionary symbols. I forget who the author is offhand.
Hans Bidderman.
Hans Bidderman. Okay, let me say this to you too. While we talking, I like what you just said. Now, let me say this too. We have a habit in Western society. We learn by negation. What I mean by that is a lot of people learn through disagreement, right? So it's possible that some of us that can't nail down some of these symbols is because we're not learning the way we normally learn, through negation. So what you do is, this is not directed at Vincent, I'm saying anybody having problems nailing down a concept, why not focus on the opposite of what that thing means? Why not focus on what darkness means? And you can kind of come to the same conclusion that its polar opposite is light. So use all the tools available, because to be honest, I had to work to train myself to rethink. Once I finally got those keys and I knew what was going on in terms what was missing for me to elevate spiritually, I actually regressed mentally back to like probably kindergarten or preschool. And I didn't throw anything away. I just relearned, because I did have a problem of learning through negation, where you'd be like, man, such and such happened. Man, get the fuck out of here. Hell no. And why would he do that? Oh, so you telling me? And so instead of being, so I'm just saying that to say, not to say that you have to be confrontational or adversarial, but to say that you can learn You can learn about a thing by examining its opposite. It's along the lines of dialectical engagement. If you think something is true, set out to prove it's false. So if you want to know what light is, man, examine. Okay, one quick thing, right? We can move on. I learned this. I learned this when I was in my early 20s. A dude hit me with a psychology test, and I didn't know it was a personality quiz, and I didn't know it. And I resented him because if you answer these questions perfect, if you answer them honestly, it's going to tell you more about yourself than you thought you knew. So what this person did, though, he shined light on the darkness of my mind with 3 simple questions. He was like, okay, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. To each question, I need you to give me 3 adjectives to describe your word. So I'm going to be honest, fresh out of high school, I was still like, what's adjective? Descriptive word, you know. So he asked me, what's your favorite animal? Give me 3 descriptive words. Describe your favorite animal. 3 descriptive words. Then he said, okay, describe your favorite body of water. Give me 3 words. First, you say what the animal is. Then you give 3 descriptive words. Then you say what the favorite body of water is. You give 3 descriptive words. Then you say, and then he asked, I'm missing one. Animal, color, animal, body of water. And then the last question is what shines the most light on you to yourself. The last question is not, it goes like this. Imagine, so you're using your imagination. Imagine you wake up in a dark room. There are no apparent windows, no doors, no apparent way out. Use 3 words to describe how you would feel. Now, those seem like simple questions. When I got hit with those questions, I answered them like this, back to back to back. I was only kind of angry because I realized I gave this man, even though it shined light on myself, to myself, I was kind of resentful that I actually exposed somebody else to my inner workings, which now I'm not at that point, but at that time I was. And so I tell you real quick while I'm dropping it, and this is something you can do on yourself. And I say, I'm 49. I've been keeping hold of this for the last 20 plus years, probably like 29 years now. So keep it, make it your own, bounce it off your kids, bounce it off your girl, bounce it off your guy, take it to work, and it's going to help you, especially seeing somebody else's reactions. So number 1, your favorite color is how you view yourself. Don't matter what the color is. Only thing that matters is the 3 adjectives, right? And the questions are so innocuous, they're so off-putting that you'll answer them honestly. Oh, my favorite color is red. It's exciting. It's sexy. It's this and that. Now, I'm going to share with you guys what my answer was. My answer was beige. And I said, because it's calming, it blends in, and something else. Because at that time in my life, I was shrinking. I was trying to be smaller. I was afraid of my intellect. I didn't like being smart around my friends. I hated using big words. Whenever they caught me reading books, I would close it. So when I found out what it meant, that's how I view myself, I was mad because I knew it was true. I was shrinking. I was trying to hide. I was trying to blend in like camouflage. Favorite body of water. Again, the body of water doesn't matter. You could say a pond, a puddle, a lake, a river, an ocean, raindrop, don't matter. What a body of water represents is what you look for in a relationship. So you might say, I like waterfalls because it's rocky, it's exciting, it's alive. Well, that's what you want in a relationship. You want rocky, exciting, alive. Your favorite animal. The animal, again, doesn't matter. The 3 adjectives are the only thing that matter. What you look for in a favorite animal, that's what you look for in a mate, in your significant other, right? So if you want a tiger because it's wild and vicious and whatever, that's what you're looking for. And if you be honest with yourself, you'll look at your current relationship and say, damn. And then the dark room. And I bring up the dark room because it relates to light. There's no light. There's no way out, no doors. What do? My first thing was I said something like panic, something else. And then I said, relax. And so that is how you would view an addiction or death. So can you imagine waking up dead and the first thing you do is panic? But at least I listed as my third was eventually I would relax. And at that time, I knew that once I got over these feelings, eventually I would settle down and my scientific mind would have kicked in. But Just want to drop that baby tool with powerful implications that anybody can work with. You know what I'm saying? Anybody.
Yeah. When you die, go to the right. Don't go to the left. Don't go towards the sun. Go to the right. That's the escape. That's the escape route. That's the escape route.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a video on that though. But
okay.
Yeah. I've been looking at the science of it, and I think I got the tool. You know, I think I got the tool. But yeah, go to the right. Don't go to the left. Let's see. All right. So,
let's go back to the movie.
Yeah, let's go back to the movie. So let's go to this scene real quick because he already he met Gore. He's with Jane. And their kids are there, right? When he first gets there. And I always thought this scene was very interesting. I had it on the screen. Let me put it back up. Let me share it. So this looks like a tree, right? You were talking about the tree of life.
Is.
And you see it's basically Thor in this scene with the lightning bolt, and he's passing on the power of magic to the children, right? Now, the interesting thing is, those of us that have children or those of us that have seeds, I saw this as basically passing on, like the thing is love and thunder, right? So the thunder is basically not only you, because Gore took the kids, right? He took the children, right? So he took the seeds, he took the next generation. And if you're talking about God butchering, I mean, if you look at what's happening in society, you see that that's what it is, right? Everything that's supposedly up. Now, I don't mean again, we don't get into quote unquote polarity, right? But there is a quote right and wrong, right? There's things that are lower vibration, things that are higher vibration, if you want to call it wrong, right? Or if you want to call it higher vibration, things that are right? But things that are going to move the planet forward and things that will move the planet backward. People forward, people backward, right? So in this particular scene, for me, it's like he's basically saying that you have to bestow this energy on their children because at the next scene, you see, shout out to Nataka Williams. I appreciate the cash out. Bless you. But in this scene, he is saying that, sorry for saying your last name. He is basically saying that you have to give this information to your children. Your children should know how to, pour libations to their ancestors. Your children should understand what your altar is. Your children should understand basic candle magic. Your children should understand their zodiac and what's going on with their I'm drawing a blank right now. What's going on with their birth chart, things like that, just to understand, even if they don't fully grasp it. Like put the seeds there, put the thunder in them, put the lightning in them, so we were talking about light, like put the light in them. Don't just do it. And also don't be dogmatic with it. Let them grow on their own. Let them figure out how to fight their own demons. Because that's what they were doing in this. They were fighting demons, right? When Thor was throwing out the demons, they were fighting demons. So teach them how to fight their own demons. Like, when my daughters, I try to empower them. I let them know, daddy's not going to be there. Mommy's not going to be there. You need to know how to stand on your own. You need to know how not to be a sheep. You need to know how not to follow the crowd. They know. If you ask my daughters, they're going to tell you the one thing dad hates is a sheep. I hate followers. I hate people that just blindly follow. It disgusts me, and I tell them that, and I reinforce that so that they know to follow their own light, their own guiding light, their own purpose. You're not. I said, you're young. You're not really gonna understand. But I say, look, this is where your Jupiter is. You know what I'm saying? So most likely you're gonna be involved in this. This is what you're going to be looking at. Teach them. And this is a 12-year-old I'm telling this to. So teach them the magic that pass this on to them, and not only pass this on to them, this is going to protect them at the end of the day. This is going to keep them in a state of mind as to where they're always thinking that they are magic and they are magical and they can make things happen. But you got to empower them with that thunder. What do you think, Mike?
No, I agree with you, man. When my kids were a lot younger, like now, out of my kids, my son is like, he's the only one that's going to indulge me for long.
Mm-hmm.
You know that because every time I'm on here, my son is in and out. He's gonna come in for a little bit. He might chime in. He might hear something. He might be talking about chakras. Oh yeah, chakras is energy, Dad. You know, like that. But I will say this: when my kids were real little, the bedtime books we read, I read Brown Bear to them. But I also used to read to them out of Judika Illis's Encyclopedia of Spirits when they was like 3 and 4. This was bedtime stories.
Wow, you was going heavy, yeah.
No,
but this is good to know. Yeah, this is good to know.
I'm gonna tell you the real. It took for me going too heavy for me to be like, whoa, let me back up. They see me working. I planted the seeds. I'm gonna let them come into it on their own. But what I will say is this, and what I did with this book, I let my kids pick out what they wanted to read. You know, keeping it real, my daughter was the one that alerted me that Ganesha was everywhere around me. You know, and this was 2000. They're 13 now. 6 years ago. So she was what, 6, 7? You know, for me reading out of this to her one day, she was like, Daddy, I see Ganesha everywhere. She was like, we just saw a commercial on Ganesha. We walked past that store. There was an elephant in the window. There's an elephant right there. And I was just like, oh, you're damn right. But anyway, what I wanted to say too was just in alignment with what you're saying. I went hard like that. When my kids were little, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a scientist. I experimented on them. Spiritual.
No, I'm not. And I don't want you to think I said that in a derisive or divisive.
No.
I think that's a great thing. I wish I would have did that.
Because he, even like I said, what hit me was I didn't want to do them how I was done. Because as being a Jehovah's Witness was shoved down my throat. First chance I got, I rebelled from it. So I didn't. That's what hit me. Like, man, let me not shove it down their throat. So I want to fast forward. When I said I was experimenting, when I was doing my dream studies, like I said, my kids, from the moment they could speak, I've been doing dream studies with my kids. So much so that right now, between my wife, my son is 16, my girls are 13, they're twins. Every morning we talk dreams in my house. This is just automatic. Whether we eating breakfast or we in the car, it could be 5 p.m. Oh, I didn't tell you about my dream last night, Dad. Oh, yeah, tell me. This and that. My son, first thing in the morning. Man, Dad, I did this and that. So what I wanted to say was dreams have become so much a part of what we discuss that, do you know we have other family members come over the house? They hear us talk dreams and they be like, man, don't nobody in my household dream. And all y'all just talking casually about dreams. And so just to drive the point home, you don't have to beat them over the head with it. You just be who you are. And like I said, I would do the experiments with my kids where I would verbally guide them into the astral, right? I would tell different stories. I would freestyle stories. But in my mind, I knew what I was doing. I was causing their bodies to relax and their mind, the conscious mind to stay conscious. And I would walk them into the astral. And I wanted the next morning, like a scientist, I'm going to document your experiences. What was your first dream? You remember your first dream last night? Well, I want to say this. When I started doing it, the youngest twin, at some point, she just clammed up on me and was like, I don't want to do that no more, Daddy. Yeah. That's what made me say, maybe I'm going too hard. Well, fast forward. About a year ago, my daughter was like, she says that, Daddy, I shift at night. And I'm like, shift? What's this? And to be honest with you, I was laying down to take a nap. So honestly, I didn't want to hear none of that shit. You shifting? What you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to be like, man, get out my room. But I'm like, what do you mean you shift? Shit, what? Yeah. And so she started describing it to me. I set up. I'm like, you mean astral? You astral project? No, Daddy, I shift. And so I'm like, okay. Tell me again. It's astral projecting. She just chooses to call it shifting. She says she shifts from one world to the next. She shifts from her waking world to wherever she desires to go. So for her, she's into Harry Potter and other little fantasy series. As she goes to sleep, she shifts to the world of Harry Potter. And she interacts with him and this and that. And so and she told me how hard she worked to gain this ability, you know? And I felt like what she was telling me, I could appreciate it because I know how hard I worked to gain my abilities. You know what I'm saying? And so just to wrap it all up, you'll be surprised if you just be who you are around your kids. You don't got to live no separate life. You don't got to, even if it's Baphomet you desire on your altar, then if your kids can't, if you don't want your kids to see it, then maybe you shouldn't do it, you know, or maybe you work them in easily. Instead of getting Baphomet, you know, get a dragon, and then work up from the dragon to something else and to something else, and you know what I'm saying. So I just say that to say, like what you're saying, with Thor, expose my kids to it. And if you remember, when he gave them kids them power, remember he was whispering to the Thunderbolt. He said, "For a limited time only."
For a limited time only, right?
Yeah. I don't want to overdo this. I don't want to create no little egomaniacs. So I did what I did. I planted my seeds, and now, as I get older, I get to watch the fruits of my labor. And I would suggest that to anybody listening. If you have kids, and I would say even if they're older, you know, you heard my example of having real little kids, but the saying is still true. The average person, especially the average American has a shorter time span than a goldfish.
Yeah, I saw that. Less than 6 seconds or something like that. Yeah.
Less than 6 seconds. A goldfish has 7 seconds. The average adult functions at a 3rd grade level of intelligence. So if you cannot explain it to a 3rd grader in less than 7 seconds at a time, you don't know it yourself. And so that goes with regardless to age group. Matter of fact, it's easier to talk to kids because their mind is still open to wonder and not closed to belief. You know what I'm saying? And so just get in the habit of that, and being able to talk at that level, it stops you from using the psychobabble, the spiritual jargons. Oh, light is you know, the scales of my heart balanced upon a feather in the heart. Most people don't understand that they don't understand that. You got to break it down into simpler terms. And actually, when you speak out loud, you really only talking to yourself. That's why people give you advice that they would never use. And that's why I give out advice and I always say I'm going to do that myself, because you're speaking to yourself. You're speaking to the different intelligences in your limbs, in your ears, in your nose. And so these things are reverberating back to you. You're educating yourself. And the more plainly you put it to yourself, I like to think that everybody listening right now is definitely operating at above a 3rd grade level. But
you have to get this info, understand this.
You know what I'm saying? To still be hanging around. So you take it from that base. This is alchemy. You take a base metal and you transmute it into something higher. You take lead and you make it gold. So taking something at a 3rd grade understanding, you take it up to a higher level by doing the research, by reading books, vetting information. Nothing wrong with listening to YouTube. I listen to a lot of people on YouTube. Nothing wrong with it. But you got to be able to check it out. It should weigh up on the scales. If not in a book, it should weigh up internally. You know what I'm saying? It should weigh up internally, and that's how you do it.
All right. So I think the next is Infinity. I don't have any clips of that yet, but it's when am I missing
Eternal.
Something? Yeah, when they mess with the Eternal. Yeah. Talk to us about that, and I guess we can close out with that with the last scenes and all that. So we almost at the 3 hour mark. I want to comment.
Yeah. We could. Okay. I think that was the point. You know, there was a whole thing with Stormbreaker actually opened up that portal in defiance of Thor, because Thor was kind of missing Mjolnir, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though you don't have to be worthy to lift up Stormbreaker, you don't have to be worthy, the same as with Mjolnir, but Stormbreaker does not have to do what anybody gets to do. There's an intelligence behind it. So Stormbreaker opened up that portal to eternity, kind of out of spite. You know what I'm saying? Kind of out of spite. However, it was important because that was when Gore finally left the abyss. And if you think about it, when he got there wasn't nothing there. There was water as a reflective surface, right? And if anybody knows Kabbalah, Kether as the first emanation is just is. It represents potential. Binah is actually a mirror reflecting Kether to itself. And from Kether viewing it, okay, here we go right here. Kether at the top, the number one, Kether, the crown, it just is. It doesn't, it contains all the potential of the physical world that we know, but it has none of the physical concepts. It's just the potentiality. Hokmah is a reflection of Kether. So when Kether looked at Hokmah, that's the reflection. The only point I want to make is when he finally crossed over to the abyss, it wasn't a whole lot going on there. It wasn't the world that we know. It was that higher plane of existence. And eternity was sitting there, basically, you know, whatever you ask. We talked about it 2 hours ago.
It wasn't a room with many mansions, Mike.
Hey, you feel me? A lot of people think it's gonna be that room with many. A lot of people think it's gonna be like a round table of all the gods.
Yeah,
like
you're gonna be listening to harp music, and you know, Angel Gabriel's gonna carry you on the wings.
A lot of people think that Omnipotent City is at the top of the tree, right? Omnipotent City is not at Kether. That's most likely at Tiferet.
Exactly.
That's at Christ consciousness. Most likely, it's no higher than that. Matter of fact, if you go back to the slide of Omnipotent City, there was a light behind it, so it's probably not even that Kether, right? You know what I'm saying? Because Kether represents like the physical sun. So I would actually say that's not. But still, most people on this path, they envision that when they leave the flesh, they're gonna be somewhere like Omnipotent City, and they're gonna get to be their own personality and their quirky self, and around all the other gods, and then you have a say so at the round table. Well, that's not actually it. That's not actually it. So when Gore finally did make it there, I think that was the point where we had these three pillars, you know, and that's when we finally got this synthesis. That's when everything kind of melded and blended together, because Thor basically told him, man, you won. You know what I'm saying? You got this, man. You won. You know what I'm saying? That aspect, his love, like I said, I didn't catch that Gore's daughter name was Love. I just assumed the first time I watched it, I just assumed the love was the Thor and Jane Foster dynamic, you know, and that wasn't. That was not the case. The daughter's name was Love, and at no point did he tell Thor his daughter's name. So when he said, "I know why you here for love," man, that made him think of his daughter, and that was the only thing. You know, a lot of people say that the fifth dimension is love, you know, and I really think that a lot of people don't realize that love, we were just talking about light, love does represent that higher vibration, not conditional love, not if you do this, I'll love you, not so long as you never betray me, I'll love you. That pure love is actually devoid of any conditions or any ego. And at that point, Gore knew he was dying. He knew once he picked up the sword, he was dying. You know what I'm saying? And so
love is here. This is where love is on the Tree of Life. Chesed. On the Kemetic Tree of Life, this will be mercy. So this is going to take you up into Shokmah. Because once you have love, right? When I got love for my brother, I want the best for him, or my sister, I want the best for him, right? And vice versa. So because of that, right, you're going to gain wisdom. You're going to get additional downloads, because now you're thinking like God, right? You're thinking like, quote unquote, the creator. You're thinking, quote unquote, like the highest version of self, because God is in everything, right? So you're really being, that's the meaning of the heart being as light as a feather. Because you're able to feel what everyone else is feeling. So you carry yourself a certain way. Like I have this example where, you know, I'm 6'3", I got a big back or whatever. I go to concerts or whatever. I go to concerts because I am an empath. This is what an empath really is. People say they're empath, but I could tell because when you talk about certain people, when you say things about certain people, I understand that you're not really an empath because I know you're not putting yourself in their shoes. When you talk about certain celebrities, you don't put yourself in those shoes. You don't see how it would be for them to experience what you in the comments talking about, or what you wouldn't saying about them in the comments, or what you're talking about them to me or your friends about. You're not putting yourself in their shoes. But when you are putting yourself in their shoes, you gain access to this spiritual wisdom. You gain access to this download because, again, that's what God is. God is the seed in all of us. It is spirit means to breathe, or spiritus, to breathe, or the wind. So love is giving without seeking anything in return. Love is also knowing that everyone is one with you. Your quote unquote enemy, the ops, your baby daddy that you hate, your baby mama that you hate, they all are part of you. So you have to get to understand who and what they are and see things from their perspective. And that'll allow you to hit this upper level of the tree. Most people, when we're operating, speaking of the tree, when we're operating and trying to manifest cars, houses, relationships, whatever, we're really operating from the space of Siferet. Most people don't rise above that, right? Because when you go to Gabora, right, the Qabalistic Tree of Life, we would call that the Dia de Herakuti. This is now justice. So now you have to be just in order to be loving. You have to practice justice in order to be loving. There's no way, right? There's this movie, this African movie. I'll send it to you, Mike. I forgot the name of it. Actually, I remember the name of it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Prince of Thieves. And without spoiling the ending, basically the movie is about a Yoruba tribe. And it shows how they would judge people, how the village would judge people. And they didn't judge people off their crime. They judged them not only for their crime, but the past and what caused them to commit the crime. So imagine if we had a criminal justice system where they were going, not just the crime, okay, you stealing from the store, okay, you committed murder, okay, you committed robbery, but what were the causes? What were the childlike influences? Why was it that you were able to snap so easily? What kind of diet, it goes deep if you really, really want to be just, right? Not just looking at what's happening. So this now leads to you being more loving because, all right, you're just, you're saying, okay, I'm not going to do this because of that. This is where morals come in. Moral compass comes in. It's all under Gabora. It's all under Mars, this warrior aspect where and you have to, in order to be just, you have to walk your own path. Like the story of Solomon in the Bible with the two widows or the two women, and there's one baby. There's a story in the Bible with Solomon with two women and one baby. The mother is saying it's her baby, and there's another woman that's saying it's her baby, right? And Solomon basically takes out a blade, right? And he goes to say, okay, well, it's nobody's baby, basically. And he's like, and he goes to stab the baby. And the mother cries and screams. And that's how he figures out who's really the mother, right? So justice requires you to be impartial above all and look at all the factors. But his wanted to kill or acting like he was going to kill the baby, it brought out the truth, right? It brought out the love. Like the justice brought out the love of the mother screaming out for the baby. And that's led to wisdom for him to understand. And then she got the spiritual power of getting the baby back, getting what she wanted, right? So it would reside in Bina, or what the Comedics would call second. So I hope people understood that.
No. Hey, you maybe look up something, but that's exactly it. And like I said, them crossing that abyss to get to that higher understanding. As we know, all these stories end with the bad guy, being defeated. But in this case, it wasn't so much a defeat because we see that Gore, he used his wish to bring his daughter back. Jane Foster died. Now, what I thought was kind of interesting, you seen in the beginning of the movie when Thor found Sif on that battlefield, and she said, "Leave me here so I can die." Right? Thor told her, "Man, you can't die here. The battle over. You're just gonna be dead. Maybe your arm gonna be in Valhalla."
She wants to go to Valhalla. He was like, "You ain't going to Valhalla. Your arm's gonna be in Valhalla."
Yeah. Now, what was the difference? What was the difference between Jane Foster dying. She wasn't in battle. She went to Valhalla. Know what the difference was? She was battling cancer, man. You know what I'm saying? She was in a battle already. And we know, and I like that ending because it showed that nobody dies. She just ascended to a higher plane of consciousness. You know what I'm saying? To a higher vibration. So I thought that was appropriate. And then for Thor to adopt Love as his daughter, I think that was also appropriate because now the fallen daughter has been raised up to her appropriate place. So now she gets raised not so much without, she was, okay, I say appropriate. I don't want anybody to think, well, all children need a mother and a father. Well, the same way Heru had a mother and a father. Heru had his daddy in the underworld. He ruled in his place, and he had his mom by his side. We know, those you should know, or if not, you know it now, Heru was just an aspect of his father, Osiris. You know what I'm saying? And so all these aspects blended into one. You know what I'm saying? So in the end, we had that synthesis again. We had that polarity, that balance, of duality. We had the masculine and the feminine. Only this time, the feminine could be considered the virgin because you got the triple goddess, the virgin, the maiden, and the crone. Mm-hmm. So here we had Thor as the masculine opposite, and then we had her as the virgin, which is just showing the potential. You know what I'm saying? Like the sun rising over the east. You know what I'm saying? Like sunlight. So I just thought that overall the movie ended at that point. I thought that it was dope, even down to that reflective surface. I tell you something I didn't catch it the second time. When Gore died and his daughter emerged from eternity, you could see eternity in her reflection in the water. I didn't catch that the first time. And so
I didn't see that. I didn't see that either. I gotta watch that again.
I'm gonna tell you, the first time I watched it, I was like, how the hell is she shooting lasers out her eye? I'm like, what did I miss? If you watch it again, when she walks up to her dad and he says that he loves her, this and that, right before she starts talking, look at the reflective surface. Her body has the same stars and stuff that eternity was made out of. You know what I'm saying? And so I just thought that all of that, you see them celestials in the background. Yeah, I just thought that all of that was appropriate. I like how Marvel is setting it up for the God tier. Mm-hmm. They're setting it up.
That's where they're going, yeah.
Exactly. And
they're going high up the tree now. They're going high up the tree of life.
And what I think that what people don't appreciate, people watch these Marvel movies, especially the ones that came out on Disney, the TV shows. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Don't nobody got no patience for She-Hulk. They don't got no patience for Moon Knight. Yeah. But what they don't realize is that, and this caught my attention when Moon Knight came out.
Moon Knight was so dope.
Moon Knight was beyond dope. And Marvel released a statement through Disney and said that we are officially unlocking the God tier. And I was just, at first I was thinking, what the fuck you mean? Thor been in all these movies, Loki, we just had Boss. But what they mean, see.
Because Thor is right here, right? You know? Thor is right here.
Yeah.
This is where Shango would reside. So Thor is right here at the 6, at Tiferet.
Yeah.
Being a light deity. Go ahead.
And so what I just want to say is, by Marvel unlocking the God tier, we said that all this is reflective of mythology. Mythology is your story being told to you, is the essence of who you are being relayed to you in story form. Marvel is symbolically unlocking the God tier and everybody that's rocking with this. You know what I'm saying? But the only way they can do it, they got to introduce these things slowly. Just like that link you put me up on. Dope information. I like how all these movies are discussing gods, because that's the only way you can introduce these other Marvel characters. You know what I'm saying? But it's also helping others to realize that, first of all, gods die too. You know what I'm saying? Rest in power, PNP. Gods die too. Please believe it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a matter of having correct thought and you know what I'm saying? And understanding that nothing, that's why I got on this topic. the understanding that while gods do die, energy and matter cannot be destroyed, only transformed. You know what I'm saying?
If you think about like the old religions, like Zoroastrianism, right? Nobody's really fucking with Zoroaster. You know, I was even looking at like a Father Divine documentary. You know, like people ain't really rocking with his movement, and just different movements and different gods and different deities, right? It's really like the show American Gods on Stars, right? It's talking about, right? That's what people put the energy into that makes it a god, that makes it powerful. Like, you know, when I was Christian, when I was Jehovah's Witness, you know, I prayed to Jesus through Jehovah or whatever, and things would happen. You know, things would manifest. I would never sit here and be like, yo, if I prayed and things didn't happen. But at the same time, it was my faith and my belief that it would happen, the placebo effect that it would happen, that made it happen. So whatever you put energy into, you can manifest through that. You know, I talk about my prison experience back in the day, you know, and the way I navigated through that was because I had a belief that I would be able to navigate through it through Christianity. You know, of course, I learned over time and got more into the sacred sciences. But yeah, it's very important that you know who and what you are when you engage in life, period. In every aspect, that you have a full knowledge and gnosis, as you would say, of who and what you are. And that's what this work is really about, getting you more in tune with who you are and what you are, which is beyond this physical avatar. And I think that's what the whole thing with eternity was about. You know, like you said, God didn't really die. He just transcended. He just transformed into another form. And he left back the love so that Thor could rock, right, with the love. He could understand what love is, because that's what Thor was missing. He was really missing that aspect of being able to care from someone, being able to really, even though he was a Heru, right? Even though it was a Heru or a hero or Harry, he was missing that aspect, which I thought was really deep about it.
No, it was. And just like we just said at the beginning of the Get Down, we know for a fact Gore didn't go nowhere. I want to say I like this picture because at the beginning they let you know it's a Kabbalistic story. On his shirt is a tree of life.
The tree of life. Yeah,
it looked like somebody with an afro, though. You know what I'm saying? Well, when I caught it out the gate, I said, "Oh, they let it be known this is a Kabbalistic story," you know. And
you can see it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty dope. Pretty dope.
And you can see the three main, you know, you can see Malkuth, Tipperet, Kether. Yeah.
No, that was dope.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your side.
And then you can't see it because I found, just to make sure I wasn't seeing what I wanted to see, I had pulled up other images and you can see without the vest, all the spheres are there. All of them are there. You know what I'm saying? It was just they just did it like in a like an 80s style, I guess, you know. But it was a tree of life, and I just think that most of us don't realize that all these symbols is being portrayed around us, and like we were saying about when Hollow Vegeta spoke on my Darth Vader, you know what I'm saying? We get all these symbols and correspondences around us. It makes it easier for us to work with it. You know what I'm saying? It does.
Yes, sir. All right. You got anything else, Mike?
Nah, that's it, man. That's it.
Yeah, we done did a hard 3 hours. My brain. I'm gonna relax, watch something silly. And that's another thing I want to tell y'all too, man. When you do this type of work, try to balance out your day. This is one of the things I've learned recently. You know, when you're doing spiritual work, you definitely want to go hard and learn and study and, you know, get your things. But take time also during that same day to laugh and relax. You know, enjoy yourself. You know, if you study for an hour, or if you got, like I said, you should have, if you can, get a God hour. You know, where you just reading. You know, reading, studying, maybe watching videos. But you definitely want to incorporate some reading, because people in the videos, even myself, sometimes I could be wrong. You know, you want to have to know knowledge. You don't want to be able to have somebody teach you. They're just a guide. All of us, me, Mike, anybody that you're watching, we're just a guide. You want to have the knowledge. So, but make sure that you also enjoy your day. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a missing thing that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. And having fun, joy is passion. Passion is force and form. You know, when you're passionate, when you're in your feelings, when you're in emotion, it not only you have body language, but it creates force. There's energy. If you go into a room that's tense, you can feel it. You know,
Yeah.
nobody has to tell you. You could just go in. You know, there's something up. Or if you with your girl, or you go to your girl's house or whatever, and you like, what's going on? You got an attitude, like, what's going on? What happened? She don't got to tell you what's going on. You could feel the force, or you could see it in a form, right? So you want to indulge in the feelings that are going to make you happy instead of just intellectual work. That's great. Left brain, studying, reason, rationalizing, but also get into the right brain where you're tapped into that feelings, your Oshun energy, your head root energy, right? And so forth and so on. So make sure you enjoy yourself while you're doing this work, because it is supposed to be enjoyed. It's not supposed to be a burden. It's not supposed to be something where you feel. And take your time. Take your time. Some people are brand new in this and you think you know everything. Trust me. Always come into this as a fool. Every day I'm a fool. I'm the fool tarot card. I don't know nothing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know nothing. All this stuff that I think I know could change tomorrow. The only thing I do know is nature. Nature is not going to fail me. Nature is not going to fail me. I know when I wake up, the sun's going to be there. Unless the universe gets destroyed for whatever. But trust in nature, trust in yourself, and trust in your own nature, and develop your nature to the point to where you are living. Because ultimately, we're supposed to be noble men and women. We're supposed to be the examples for the world. That's why they follow us. You know what I'm saying? That's why they follow us in whatever we do, whatever slang we create, whatever culture we create, right? You call them culture vultures. They're not really culture vultures. This is really their program. That's really their algorithm. They've been following us since the ancients. And this is not like a race divisive thing. I am just saying that we are supposed to be the vanguard. Somebody got to drive the car.
Yep.
So it's our time to drive the car, and everything in the universe is showing us that, right? So let's continue to move on with the moving on. And with that said, we're going to close out. Michael Bell, thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. I appreciate you. I always tell you this. I got love for you as my brother, man. I think you're my brother, especially since we're both Jehovah's Witnesses. Come together and debunk these myths, and bring forth the new myth. And I was thinking of year 3000, they're going to be looking back at these Marvel movies doing what we did, doing what we're doing now, looking at them same way we look at Horus and Jesus and, and Oshun and Ogun. This is the new modern version. So stay on, really, if you really want to stay on top of Marvel, because Marvel, they give it to you. They know what's happening next, I promise you. In Captain America Winter Soldier, you'll see the CV-19 in the beginning scene. You'll see the CV-19. You'll see the Thanos snap, what happened after the CV-19, right? You'll see variants in Loki. You'll see what's going on. Even when Moon Knight was happening, right? When the moon, what was going on during that time with the advance of the variants, right? But if you follow the Marvel mythology, they'll tell you what's going on. They tap in, and I don't think even they know it.
I don't think so either.
It's just they get the downloads because it's time.
Yep.
All right, y'all. And close. Peace. Power.
All right,
prosperity.
Peace.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We out.
All right. Thanks again, brother.
No, thank you again. And let's do it again. We keep dropping these bombs on them. It's always a pleasure, Mike. Always a pleasure.
Always, man. I'm finna go get me.
Very, very grateful to have you on my channel.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah,
all right, man. I'm out.
Peace.
Peace.
Oh, and thank everybody here also for coming through. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for rocking with me. It means a lot to me for spending your time with me. It's 3 hours. It's a long time. So thank you for that, man. Again, peace, power, and prosperity. Rob Blackstorm. Enjoy your night.